Chapter 21, Lian Xingyu exits isolation. The Lian tribal clan's elders' compound late at night. Pang.
The door to the compound was pushed open. A young man with a complexion as clear as jade walked out.
Xingyu, why did you come out?
The patriarch stood up the moment he saw the young man. Lian Xingyu had previously announced that he wanted to isolate himself till the Tai Divine Kingdom's warrior selection began. Yet it had been less than a month before Lian Xingyu came out of isolation. My cultivation met some problems. Lian Xingyu's expression didn't look good. He had planned to use 2 months to accumulate a strong base before using the Desolate Bones essence to break through to the Purple Blood realm. By doing so, his fundamentals will be strong, and having accumulated sufficient amounts, when he breakthroughs into the Purple Blood realm, he would reach the peak of the beginning stages of the Purple Blood realm. Among the others in the beginning stages of the Purple Blood realm, he would be able to keep his head up, and it would aid him in breaking through to an even higher realm in the future.
It would be very beneficial. Tai Divine Kingdom's warrior selection was particular about a warrior's fundamentals and cumulative progress. If Lian Xingyu could meet all those requirements, he could get the recognition of the Tai Divine Kingdom's officers during the warrior selection and obtain excellent results. However, the circumstances did not permit so. After picking dry the Lian clan herb mountain, Lian Xingyu's cultivation had a slow development despite all the good herbs. Lian Xingyu believed he had met his bottleneck. In fact, the attitude towards martial arts mattered most when in isolation. With a good attitude, strong confidence and perseverance, it would be easy to break though.
When in self-doubt, thinking something was wrong with the cultivation process, such as hitting a bottleneck, it would inevitably cause a loss in momentum and make breaking through even tougher. The psychological effect usually did not have significant effects, but Lian Xingyu had originally lacked the resources for his cultivation, but matters were made worse, causing Lian Xingyu's progress to be even slower. In the end, he chose to end his isolation prematurely. By clearing his mind and taking a break before obtaining the Desolate Bone Essence, he could then re-isolate himself to break through into the Purple Blood realm. This was Lian Xingyu's plans. It was a reasonable plan. Sometimes it happened that a breakthrough was not possible, but by taking a break resulted in miraculous insight, resulting in a breakthrough unknowingly.
How has the refinement process of the Desolate Bones been? Lian Xingyu asked the question that concerned him the most. This piece of desolate bone was his entire fortune and life. Yes, it's still going as planned, but a few of the poor villagers involved in the refining were poisoned a few days ago.
I was originally planning on letting them hang on a few days, but seeing they were doing badly, I gave them some blood-thinning pills. They have all recovered by now and will not affect the refinement. Lian Xingyu knitted his eyebrows upon hearing it. These trash are really useless. It's just been a few days and they can't take the toxicity from the frost python desolate bones.
After eating the blood-thinning pills, it will overdraw on their vitality.
Under such circumstances, they will die before the refinement of the desolate bones is done. Lian Xingyu's words were cold and inhumane. The patriarch felt he was going overboard and said, "Xingyu, you are asking for too much.
These people seldom eat a proper meal or wear proper clothes. How would they be able to endure the toxin from the frost python?
They have already sacrificed themselves for the Lian tribe. In the future, when you make your meteoric rise, you must take care of their families."
Got it, said Lian Xingyu with a straight face.
I'm only worried about the refinement process and fear it will be delayed unnecessarily. If these people died too early, it would affect the refinement process. Grandpa, please send the order down to the tribe to gather more help.
The more the merrier.
With more people, they can all share in the toxicity of the frost python and last longer. Although the blood-thinning pill isn't a very expensive drug, but with most of our money gone, we have to save every penny.
Lian Xingyu said it lightly. The patriarch sighed hearing this.
He knew that for every person recruited, another life was lost. The pitiful poor even scrambled to join in the refining of the desolate bone for the bacon. For the Lian tribe, I guess it has to be so, exclaimed the patriarch, it's such a pity. If we had a set of desolate bones without any toxicity, there wouldn't be so many deaths due to the refinement. A set of desolate bones without toxin, Lian Xingyu scoffed.
With the finances of our tribe and that incomplete technique manual, would we have been able to exchange for a set of desolate bones without toxicity?
Besides, the frost python desolate bones does not have toxin, it just has a hard to dissipate frost chi. Once it enters the body, it freezes the organs, causing a person to lose his life.
With a desolate heaven master, he could easily dissipate the frost python's frost chi. But why would a desolate heaven master be willing to help clear such a low-grade desolate bones toxicity?
There was no chance for them to come to our Lian tribal clan.
Even the young masters of the big tribes were unwilling to use this kinds of desolate bones.
Only because this set of frost python desolate bones was the cheapest I could get.
Just like how a rich family will give the remaining bones to feed the dogs, to the big tribes, I'm like a wild dog waiting to eat their scraps.
Lian Xingyu's self-deprecating last words were said with his lips twitching and fists clenched tightly, with his nails piercing into his flesh.
He hated.
The young masters and mistresses of the large tribes could pick among the desolate bones, not using those with side effects or low efficacy. But for him, he had to go through all the trouble and sacrificing his wealth just to obtain a rejected piece of frost python desolate bones. Putting all hope on a set of desolate bones, which had immense side effects, and risking his life to consume it was pathetic.
Xingyu, it has been hard on you all these years.
But you have to know even the bright in the big tribes are few in number. There are even plenty without the talent in the big tribes, they too don't get much of the desolate beast meat. The patriarch felt guilty. He knew Lian Xingyu had great talent, but because the Lian tribal clan was too poor, they were unable to nurture him. All these years, the patriarch had known that Lian Xingyu had a grudge towards the tribe despite him never uttering a word.
It was hard for Lian Xingyu to listen to what the patriarch had to say. He answered, "Grandpa, don't console me.
Heaven is heartless, treating all things as dogs. Since the world is unfair, I will use my own strength to gain that fairness. Sooner or later, I will take control of my life, and will take control of the lives of others. In the future, I will have all the children of the big tribes at my feet."
"I understand," sighed the patriarch.
"Tomorrow, I will pass the order to gather more people to refine the desolate bones. I will not care about the number of deaths. With more people, they can absorb more of the frost chi, making it safer for you when you consume the desolate bones."
The patriarch knew that Lian Xingyu would not feel any remorse for the poor who died for him.
Lian Xingyu hated the unfairness of the world.
He felt he was extremely unlucky, so how could he be bothered with the unluckiness of others? To Lian Xingyu, the poor were like ants.
Even Lian Xingyu saw himself as a slightly bigger ant. The survival of the fittest, this was a notion ingrained deep in Lian Xingyu's heart. Only by eating the smaller ants could he keep growing till the point where he could control his own fate and the fate of others, as a top expert.
Chapter 22, Recruitment. Early in the morning as the sun shined and mist rose from the woods, the ancient vast wilderness welcomed a brand new day. With the herb picking halted, Jiang Shiro was preparing breakfast while Yi Yun was chopping wood in the yard. He did not use a hatchet, but was chopping them with his bare hands. Pa! A clear loud snap rang. A clean cut separated the firewood into two. Yi Yun looked at the two pieces of firewood and said to himself, "Dragon rib tiger bone fist when mastered can break a tree trunk into thin chopstick-like pieces with bare hands in less than a minute. If I were to practice for another 3 months, I wonder if I'll reach that point." Yi Yun was deep in thought when he heard a noisy commotion from far. Listening attentively, Yi Yun heard Zhao Qiezhu's voice, "Lian tribal clanspeople. Listen carefully. The patriarch has issued an order to recruit 10 strong men to refine the desolate bones. Those who are interested can sign up for it. They will be accepted on the basis of merit." "Oh? Recruiting 10 strong men to refine the desolate bones?" Yi Yun had a thought.
He had been thinking about the illness the villagers had contracted from refining the desolate bones for the past few days. The large numbers of sick were all healed by a miracle drug. Something had to be amiss for them to recruit new strong men for the refinement. With that thought, Yi Yun threw down his firewood and headed to the grain sunning ground in the village. From afar, Yi Yun could see Zhao Taizhu standing up high shouting.
Many villagers were alarmed.
The villagers who were responsible for the refinement of the desolate bones had received numerous benefits. Besides the miracle drug and the bacon, they were also given food subsidies. Because of the desolate bones, there was extremely little food left in the Lian tribal clan. Being able to collect more food was what the villagers dreamed of.
I'll sign up. I'll sign up too.
The people rushed towards Zhao Taizhu to sign up, afraid that they were too late to be in line.
Wang Dahu, is willing to refine the desolate bones. I'm a second-tier male. A stout but yellow-faced man due to malnutrition stood in front of Zhao Taizhu. He looked at Zhao Taizhu with hope in his eyes.
Second-tier male, that would barely do. Zhao Taizhu scrutinized Wang Dahu with a picky glare. Zhao Taizhu did not know that the refinement process was fatal. It was a top secret in the Lian tribal clan, so to prevent the secret from leaking, only very few members of the upper echelon of the Lian tribal clan knew. The other members of the warrior preparation camp did not know that the set of desolate bones contained a fatal frost chi that would seep into their bodies and erode their lives away before sealing their fate by causing them to die from organ failure. So Zhao Taizhu thought of the refinement process as a wondrous job. Being given the authority to pick people to do such a wondrous job made Zhao Taizhu complacent. The authority vested in him made many look at him with a fawning look, and compliments rained on him.
Zhao Taizhu was extremely picky with the people. Wang Dahu, you stand by the side. You will be considered a substitute, it will be you if there's no one else more suited. Hearing Zhao Taizhu's words, Wang Dahu was delighted. He thanked Zhao Taizhu incessantly before standing aside obediently. Oh? Lu Er, you're here to sign up too? For a person with weak legs, a gust of wind would blow you away. You have to know that the refinement of the desolate bones requires you to chop firewood, man the fire, fan it from morning to night. Also, the temperature around the cauldron is extremely high. Without sufficient fitness, you will faint straight away. Zhao Taizhu impatiently waved his hand to chase away the monkey-thin Lu Er. Lian Xingyu had handed down a mission of picking strong men. Picking weaklings was definitely not wanted.
One by one, the villagers rushed forward to sign up, however many were chased away while few stayed. Yi Yun monitored the situation nearby. He felt that there was something wrong with the desolate bones. But, even if there was a problem, he had to investigate it himself.
Because the desolate bones were very important to Yi Yun.
With the Lian clan herb mountain picked dry, he needed plenty of energy and nourishment for his training. The grain porridge was insufficient.
Oh? It's you!
Just as Yi Yun was thinking about his next step, he suddenly heard a familiar voice behind him. The voice was deep and gentle, but Yi Yun's face changed the moment he heard it.
It was Lian Xingyu. Wasn't Lian Xingyu in isolation?
Based on Zhao Taizhu's words, he was to be isolated for 3 months.
Why was he out so early? Yi Yun's original plans were to exceed Lian Xingyu by the time he left isolation 3 months later.
At that point, he need not fear Lian Xingyu.
But now, Yi Yun had just been practicing martial arts for 7 days, and even if the purple crystal could defy fate, Yi Yun would not be able to defeat a mortal blood level 5 Lian Xingyu who had been practicing martials for 10 years. Yi Yun thought carefully, he didn't have any grave hatred for each other. Lian Xingyu's attempted murder might have just been a matter of convenience.
It was analogous to a person seeing a rat in the house. The person would kill it, but if he missed, he would not tear down his walls to chase it to death. Yi Yun turned around having calmed his expression before meeting Lian Xingyu's eyes.
But upon seeing Lian Xingyu, he immediately showed fear, unsure of what he had to do. Young Master Lian? Yi Yun retreated a few steps, as if he had been shocked by Lian Xingyu's sudden appearance. Lian Xingyu frowned. This kid did not die? His original attempted murder was indeed a matter of convenience.
The main reason was the hate he felt Yi Yun had for him. Lian Xingyu was afraid that during the critical stages of the refinement process, and the combination of the lack of food and deaths would incite the villagers. Lian Xingyu was afraid that Yi Yun, who could easily incite the villagers, would cause a riot due to Yi Yun's hate for himself. Lian Xingyu was pursuing the highest standards of martial arts, to be someone to lord over millions. With this goal, he had the mentality of an emperor.
A person of Yi Yun's stature was negligible.
In order to prevent any potential danger, having Yi Yun dead was no big deal. Lian Xingyu had killed numerous. After all, the Desolate Bones refinement alone would cause many deaths. Since killing Yi Yun was a small matter, Lian Xingyu did not take it to heart.
He had previously not verified Yi Yun's fate. It was only after he left his isolation that he discovered Yi Yun alive, puzzling him. For a lowly poor person to not die under his own attack, what could have happened? Were his own skills not enough? What are you doing here? Lian Xingyu asked.
Answering, young master, I heard that Lord Zhao was recruiting strong men to refine the Desolate Bones. I also heard that we could get bacon, so I'm thinking of trying.
Oh?
After hearing Yi Yun's words, Lian Xingyu's eyes burned with contempt. Yi Yun was only 12, yet his words on the day of the ration distribution were unlike that of a 12-year-old child. He also had the ability to incite the people to riot, making him an unstable factor in Lian Xingyu's calculations.
But now, Yi Yun looked like a kid. What could a person who only had eyes on bacon do?
Lian Xingyu could not be bothered with Yi Yun except for the mysterious failure to kill Yi Yun.
Since you want to refine the Desolate Bones, why don't you sign up? What are you doing out here?
To be honest, young master, Lord Zhao only wants people who are at least second-tier males, but for me,
Yi Yun's voice lowered once he said that.
It was as if he was ashamed of his tiny strength, and was unable to say anything further.
Lian Xingyu's contempt in his eyes became clearer.
This idiot, to think I thought so highly of him.
That's right, he's just 12, what sort of schemes could he have?
Lian Xingyu forgot that he too wasn't that old. He was only 17. Among the other 17-year-olds, he was the worldliest, but he was still a bit too young. He could never have dreamed that the 12-year-old in front of him had the soul of an adult.
Since you have the heart, and are willing to give your strength to the Lian tribal clan, I will not forbid it.
Seeing how ambitious you are a person worthy of grooming.
I'll make an exception and give you a chance. Lian Xingyu gave Yi Yun a few words of encouragement.
This retard can contribute a bit of strength, although he's a sickly kid, his fitness does not matter when using him to absorb the frost toxin.
Chapter 23, Yi Yun's Elixir Refinement. So I can refine the Desolate Bones? Asked Yi Yun.
Lian Xingyu made a silent acknowledgement. It was so pitiful seeing a person live a life where he was so happy to be sent to his death.
Thank you, young master. Yi Yun was very happy.
This was not faked, for he was truly happy. He had originally thought Lian Xingyu would go crazy and pat him a few more times after seeing him alive to ensure his death.
Although Lian Xingyu's methods would not harm Yi Yun, it would result in many implications.
Lian Xingyu might mistake it as an error for failing to kill Yi Yun for the first time.
But he would realize it if there was a second time. For Yi Yun, that was not good news.
Yi Yun's goals to refine the Desolate Bones were fulfilled by Lian Xingyu.
Refining the Desolate Bones gave Yi Yun time to breathe.
Yi Yun's strength increased at exponential rates, so in 2 months' time, things will no longer be the same.
Yuner, why aren't you coming home to eat?
Zhang Shiro had finished preparing the meal and had came out to look for Yi Yun. But she saw Yi Yun speaking to Lian Xingyu the moment she came out the door. Zhang Shiro was instantaneously worried.
Lian Xingyu had previously harmed Yi Yun grievously, and almost took his life. She walked over quickly, afraid that Lian Xingyu would harm Yun.
Although Jiang Xioro hated Lian Xingyu to the bone, she knew she could not lose decorum with him.
I see, it's young Master Lian.
Jiang Xioro smiled wryly after seeing Lian Xingyu as she pulled Yun behind her.
Oh. Jiang Xioro, I remember you. Noticing Jiang Xioro's actions, Lian Xingyu frowned. This girl was still hostile towards himself.
Lian Xingyu disliked having the poor plebeians of the Lian tribal clan show any disrespect to him. It was a result of an inferiority complex within him under all the larger powers, so he aimed to establish his authority among the poor who could not compare to himself. But Jiang Xioro was considered a woman he admired, so he was more tolerant of her. He would slowly tame her.
Lian Xingyu laughed.
Although he admired Jiang Xioro, he did not give her any attention, nor say one word more to her.
He was an elite. He was like an emperor who only visited, but never chased.
He just needed to wait for Jiang Xioro to reach a desperate situation and get Zhao Taizhu to deal with her.
Jiang Xioro looked at Lian Xingyu's back as she clenched Yun's small hands. Yuner, what was going on?
Nothing, sis Xioro.
You don't have to worry, answered Yun.
Yun was the one who told Jiang Xioro that Lian Xingyu had hurt him. Since Yun assured her, Jiang Xioro eased up. These few days, she began to vaguely feel that her brother was no longer the mere child he was. He had his own ideas.
But Jiang Xioro began to think before she felt something amiss. Yuner, you can't be thinking of refining the desolate bones? You can't go to that place. Yun looked at Jiang Xioro in surprise. Jiang Xioro's keen intuition was surprising.
Though she didn't know what mysteries the refinement process had, she had figured that it was a dangerous job. Yun thought it over before saying softly, Sis Xioro, I'm not as weak as you think. Having came back from the dead, I think I'm different from the past. Don't you remember me climbing up the 20-meter tall cliffs a few days ago? With Yun saying that, Jiang Xioro recalled. She was astonished at Yun's speed climbing up the cliff, but accepted it because Yun liked to climb and pick herbs since young.
Thinking it through, Yun was indeed more vigorous. He was much better at scaling cliffs than most of the members of the warrior preparation camp.
With that in mind, Jiang Xioro felt reassured. Her brother was indeed different. Sometimes, having not died in a fatal situation, there would be great fortune after. Jiang Xioro had heard that some people were struck by lightning, and not only did they not die, they obtained special abilities.
Could Yuner be in a similar situation?
That night, Yun as a new hire was brought to the grain sunning grounds. Wooden fences surrounded the grain sunning grounds. Because of the typhoid incident, the wooden fences increased, preventing anyone from the outside to see in. There were about 30 people split into 2 shifts involved in the refinement of the desolate bones.
Yun was designated the night shift.
There were about a dozen people for the night shift. Although these people were not as fit as the men from the warrior preparation camp, they were all large. Among them, Yun was like a little chicken among swans.
His height only reached their chest. Seeing Yun, a dozen of the men were shocked. The reason for the stares was obvious. How did such a thin child get selected to refine the desolate bones? Besides his strength, his height was so short that even he could not reach the mouth of the cauldron while standing on a stool. How would he be able to add the Li fire water into the cauldron? Lad, are you kidding me? Someone like you can refine the bones? What can you do with your little body? Your legs aren't even thicker than the firewood. All the men had strong views upon seeing Yun. Yun would be given a piece of bacon for not doing any work. They were not cool with that. Yun did not bother speaking and sat by the pile of firewood, letting them say all they want. Time for porridge. A man from the warrior preparation camp brought out a bucket of porridge. There was food provided for those who refined the desolate bones. This was a welfare the upper echelon gave to ensure the smooth refinement of the desolate bones. Only after eating would they have the strength to work.
Upon hearing that the porridge arrived, the men's eyes lit up and ran towards it. Hula, the bucket of porridge was snatched empty. With Yun at the back, together with how these people struggled and fought for the food, there was already none left for Yun. Yun felt helpless. Bad surroundings make bad civilians. This phrase had its logic. It wasn't because the people in bad surroundings were immoral, but being moral did not ensure their survival. Time to work. Work time. The guys from the warrior preparation camp shouted. A few men walked towards the big cauldron. It was time to replace the day shift. Yun straggled at the back. He walked slowly as he stared at the cauldron. In the eyes of others, Yun looked stunned by the huge bronze cauldron that was burnt by purple fire. Indeed, the cauldron was huge. Yun's height did not even reach the second handle of the cauldron. In fact, Yun's sight was filled with faint points of light. It looked like flying fireflies dancing in the night. Such a mystical power. This was the energy of the desolate bones, and was the legendary power of desolates. This endless stream of light dots excited Yun. Previously, the purple crystal had absorbed some of the desolate bones' energy, but he stood far away and could not absorb much. It was unlike today, where he was in close contact with the desolate bones. In comparison, the purple jade ginseng and the black fungus was incomparable to this. Like a person who was accustomed to eating plain food seeing a lavish meal, Yun was extremely excited. This was like a thief entering an emperor's tomb, a weasel sneaking into a chicken coop. All the energy of the desolate bones belonged to him. "Kid, what are you idling for? Chop the firewood," shouted a man before landing an axe in front of Yun. Yun was awaked from his sluggish state, and happily proceeded to chopping wood. "This lad has a brain problem," swore the man. He also began busying himself. He and the others were in charge of chopping the firewood. The firewood was the key to the fire source. It was extremely strong and heavy. A few strong men had to work hard before they could cut up the purple firewood. These men worked hard, because if they did well, they could be promoted to foreman, getting more bacon and food. Yun, though happy, did not get carried away. He knew the desolate bones refinement had something to do with the typhoid breakout. He wanted to investigate thoroughly what was the cause of the typhoid breakout. If the purple crystal could not resolve it, then no matter how great the rewards, Yun would only run. So as Yun chopped the firewood without much purpose, he was carefully observing the red-hot bronze cauldron. Slowly, Yun realized the problem. From the big cauldron flew out two differently colored light dots. The first was purple in color. It was part of the mainstream. It flew around aimlessly, and Yun realized that if he focused, these light dots would fly towards him. With the purple crystal merged with Yun's heart, Yun felt that he could now control the amount the purple crystal absorbed ever since he broke through into the second level of mortal blood. He could choose if he wanted to absorb or not. The other light dot was another color, icy blue. Chapter 24, Frost Toxin. These cold blue light dots accounted for a small proportion, but it made Yun feel a mysterious bone-biting chill. Yun was familiar with this chilling feeling. He had felt it when he passed by the refinement area while descending the mountain. He remembered it clearly because it was just after breaking through to the Vigor realm. The cold blue light dots floated in the sky like ghosts. Occasionally a light dot would leave the cauldron and dance in the air randomly before entering one of the men's bodies. Just like snowflakes falling into the water, these light dots would then disappear. Yun could not detect the light dot after that. The light dot had been absorbed by one of the men's body. Yun's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely understood that the cold blue light dots were the cause of the typhoid fever epidemic. He quietly observed for a while and realized that the cold blue light dots would randomly fly out and enter the bodies of the men. The men were busy chopping wood, and did not notice anything. Yun was more assured of his speculation. The purple-red energy would not fly into the bodies of people. On the contrary, they would remain in the fire water. It seems the Desolate Bones has two forms of energy. The purple-red energy is beneficial to a person, causing a person to transform, allowing a person to break through. On the other hand, the cold blue energy is an invisible killing force. The energy was toxic, although it sounded iffy, yet it wasn't out of the ordinary. On Earth, there were plenty of energies that had toxicity. One such example was the sun. It was only after being filtered through the ozone before its sunlight could give life to Earth. Humans would have died from the direct sunlight bearing down on them. On Earth, the most frightening elements had toxic energy, such as radioactive polonium. It killed Arafat, who used to appear often on the news. If one were to use polonium to kill, a gram would be sufficient to kill millions. A few hundred grams was enough to kill all life on Earth, making it much stronger than the common poisonous items. In Ian's opinion, the blue light dots were similar in nature to energy, and using toxic to describe it may be inaccurate.
However, it was sufficient to understand them as having the capability to kill.
Just like on Earth, being exposed to radiation will cause cancer, ulcers, and various illnesses. In the vast wilderness, absorbing the Desolate Bones chill toxin would cause typhoid, resulting in deaths. Then aren't I in danger being here, thought Ian. He wasn't guarding a cauldron, he was guarding a nuclear reactor. Thinking carefully, there were plenty of things that were totally different from Earth, but there were similarities. In terms of energy, the strongest energy on Earth could create atomic bombs or provide nuclear energy. But in this world, the strongest energy was used to create the strongest experts. These experts could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. A flip of hand would destroy a city. These two forms of energy could result in terrible destruction. If not used properly, it would be toxic to the common people. Thankfully, Ian controlled the treasure that could harness the energy in this world, purple crystal. But can the purple crystal deal with this energy? Ian tried using the purple crystal to absorb the blue light dots. Since he could see the blue light dots, he should be able to absorb them with the purple crystal. As Ian prepared to absorb the first blue light dot, Ian breathed in deeply and reached out his hand carefully. His heart raced, but he finally rationalized that even if the purple crystal could not absorb the form of energy, he wouldn't die immediately from one light dot.
The blue light dot entered Ian's body. Ian felt it clearly.
The light dot flew into his fingertips like an ice crystal, and then entered his bloodstream.
It's so cold. This was Ian's first thought. It was like having a huge piece of ice stuffed down his collar during winter. It was weird that he felt it so profoundly, but the other men did not feel it at all. Their bodies were not as fit as him, so they shouldn't be able to resist the cold as much. It seems they have slow reactionary speeds, and are not able to feel the biting cold. However, their bodies will not lie. Once they are invaded by the frost toxin, they would slowly lose their strength. If not for the red pill that was given to them from the upper echelon of the Lian tribal clan, they would already be dead? Ian traced the blue light dot that entered his body. It was eventually absorbed and dissolved by the purple crystal into energy that mixed into Ian's blood. When the energy flowed through Ian's body, that biting chill had already disappeared, and gave Ian a cool, refreshing feeling. It was comfortable as if he was soaking in aquatic springs. This made Ian more curious. What sort of treasure was the purple crystal? It could even absorb all forms of energy, be they the harmful energy like the blue light dots from the Desolate Bones or the Yuan Shi Lianxingyu had used on him. The purple crystal would reduce those forms of energy to the purest form of energy to nourish his body. Ian was not aware of the fact that in the vast wilderness, many Desolate Bones contain toxic energies. The frost python Desolate Bones toxin was one of the lowest grades. A low-level Desolate Heaven Master could easily dissolve the toxicity. Hence, a toxicity of this level was nothing to the purple crystal. After really absorbing it, Ian realized the effect was not significant. The purple crystal could indeed absorb the blue light dots, but the absorbing speed was extremely slow,
far more difficult than absorbing the purple red light dots.
Kid, what are you doing?
Yi-Yun was carefully researching the differences between the two types of energy when he heard a man shout at him.
In the eyes of others, Yi-Yun was just idling.
One of the men who wanted to be the foreman of the group could naturally not stand Yi-Yun's laziness.
Yi-Yun replied with a smile, "Sorry uncle, this axe is too heavy."
"Humph."
The man responded with "I knew you wouldn't amount to much. I really don't know what the top brass were thinking, to send a kid to refine the desolate bones, holding me back. The useless kid I have, De2, is about the same age as you. His strength is twice yours." Not to mention Yi-Yun's age, but even among his same-aged peers, the past Yi-Yun's body was extremely thin and lacked strength.
In the vast wilderness, the people worshipped the strong. They were proud of the big and tall men who had dark rough skin.
A handsome person like Yi-Yun who had smooth skin was considered ridden with ills.
Such a person was not popular.
"I'm really sorry, uncle.
I didn't only hold you back, I even held your eggs.
I'll work hard in the future."
Yi-Yun was still smiling. The man was good at doing hard labor, but his reaction was slow. He had not realized what Yi-Yun had said. He only grunted before returning to work while swearing.
Yi-Yun began to split the firewood at an adequate pace. To avoid trouble, he increased his speed by a tiny bit. It took him 5 minutes of hard work, amounting to 10 chops to split a piece of firewood. He had to stay in line with his status. At the same time, no one noticed that the purple-red energies churning in the cauldron were flying towards Yi-Yun. As for the cold blue energies, Yi-Yun also absorbed as much as he could.
He felt that if he could absorb the blue energies, the men around him would not die as a result of the energy.
Unfortunately, the purple crystal was not highly effective in absorbing the blue energies.
Small amounts of energy were still entering the bodies of the men around him.
Yi-Yun had mixed feelings seeing this. Although these people weren't pleasant, they did not deserve to die. However, he was unable to save them.
If he revealed the truth, the men would not only disbelieve him, and might even report him as rumor-mongering to Lian Xingyu for a reward of bacon.
These people were definitely capable of doing that. Yi-Yun's situation will be terrible if that happens.
In the vast wilderness, the weak had to accept their own suffering.
There was no other way around it.
Just like pigs, cattle and sheep, they did nothing wrong, but were kept in captivity and slaughtered by humans. The only reason was because they were weak. And in the vast wilderness, being weak was a fault. Being weak made you unable to decide your own fate.
Being weak allowed you be trampled on. Chapter 25, Self-Mutilating Cultivation.
After a whole night of refining the desolate bones, Yi-Yun could not absorb the energy within the desolate bones without inhibitions. Yi-Yun realized that there was a limit to his absorption before he felt a feeling of fullness. Just like when eating a meal, there would be a point where one couldn't eat anymore. If he carried on absorbing the energy, he would feel a turbulent flow of energy within his body, making his body feel numb. At this point, Yi-Yun felt full of strength and needed to vent it.
He couldn't wait to go up to the mountains to cultivate.
After arduously waiting till dawn, the day shift came to swap out Yi-Yun.
Yi-Yun raced to the back mountains. He had originally jogged at a slow speed to the mountain entrance, but when there was no one around, he began to run like the wind. He was like an agile antelope, a simple jump covered 5 to 6 meters. A 3-meter-high boulder was bypassed with a leap, a 5-meter tree was crossed through the middle. Yi-Yun was not running, but flying while sticking to the ground. The mountain terrain was complex, but under Yi-Yun's keen senses, no terrain was an obstacle for Yi-Yun. He ran to the top of the mountain and descended from the other side down a valley to reach the back of the mountain. During this period, Yi-Yun had not rested once. While traveling, he maintained a constant deep breathing pace. His heart was beating at a constant frequency, slow, but strong. After running for an hour, Yi-Yun finally stopped. Even after such a long run, neither his face was red, nor was his heart beating fast.
Running was also a form of cultivation.
After running the distance, Yi-yun enjoyed the sweat on the run.
This location was the furthest away from the village and was safe. Any further, he would go beyond the protection of the Wonderland, and could meet huge beasts and desolate beasts.
At Yi-yun's present strength, he was doomed if he met a desolate beast.
The vegetation was not rich here.
A few patches of black rocks littered the ground. This was black ironstone.
Black ironstone was as heavy as steel, and was several times stronger than normal rocks. Even the moss which could break rocks could not sprout on the black ironstone.
The place Yi-yun stood was a flat area below a cliff.
It was about 30 meters in diameter. Above the cliff was a waterfall. Numerous droplets of water danced and flew in the air currents, catching the sun and creating rainbows in the mist.
This scenery would be a fascinating tourist attraction on Earth.
The waterfall was not considered wide, but the vertical drop was high. It was more than 100 meters. The wild water flow continued its relentless assault downwards.
It was a rumble that could be heard from a distance.
Yi-yun chose this cultivation location previously, precisely for the waterfall.
Yi-yun took a deep breath and circulated the energy within his body. His tough training was about to begin again. In an isolated mountain wilderness without anyone in a 10-mile radius, Yi-yun practiced each dragon rib tiger bone fist stance. There was no lack of boulders at the back of the mountain. Yi-yun had specifically chosen a flat piece of ground with black ironstone.
Yi-yun stood in front of the black ironstone and started sending punches onto it.
How could mere fists made of flesh and blood break apart such lifeless black ironstone?
Yi-yun gritted his teeth, 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, 10 punches, 20 punches. He used all his strength in every punch.
The first few punches resulted in bruised fists.
The pain was heart-wrenching as his fists turned bloody. Finally, as the punches flew, his joints began to rattle. The pain traveled from his fingers to his heart. It was an indescribable pain.
But Yi-yun gritted his teeth and endured through it.
His face was drenched in sweat. His lips turned white as his face turned pale. Only till the point where his fist surfaces were nearly bones instead of flesh that Yi-yun stopped. Following that, he began kicking the boulder. He did so till his legs were covered in bruises. He could barely stand. After a breather, Yi-yun began hitting the boulder with his shoulders and back. Yi-yun used every possible part he could use, but he was eventually still unable to do anything to the black ironstone. Instead, his body was filled with cuts and bruises.
Pain. Yi-yun rested on the ground.
His body was out of strength, and even his vision had blurred. He focused on his breath, and followed the theories of the dragon rib tiger bone fist techniques to circulate his energies. This was a self-mutilating cultivation method that Yi-yun did not dare to try previously. However, a few hours ago, Yi-yun had eaten his fill of the frost python's desolate bones energy. The energy contained within the desolate bones was called the power of desolates. It was a great gift to any cultivator. Compared to the power of desolates, the herbal essence in the Lien clan herb mountain was trivial.
Even 100-year-old herb would be lacking.
With the support from the power of desolates, only then did Yi-yun dare to proceed with such self-mutilating practice.
This practice was recorded as the dragon rib tiger bone fists tiger claws smite rocks, a method to train the bones.
Using the boulder to smite his bones was a tremendously painful and hard process.
It was impossible without strong perseverance.
Even with perseverance, he had to have the resources to support it. If not, one could end up disabled instead of having the bones trained. Because of limited resources, the members of the warrior preparation camp did not dare to attempt tiger claws smite rocks. Only the gifted in the large tribes could withstand such injuries through the consumption of desolate beast meat and soaking in desolate beast blood.
The power of desolates rapidly circulated within Yi-yun's body.
His wounds began to itch, indicating the recovery of his wounds. The desolate bones were indeed top-notch. Together with the purple crystal's purification, The energy used to heal his body was at a tremendous speed, visible to the naked eye. The method used by Dragon-Ribbed Tiger Bonefist to train one's bones, letting the power of Desolates to heal those wounds, was a cultivation method similar to iron forging. The method of forging swords was to repeatedly hit a steel sword when hot to forge a peerless sword. Yi Yun's current practice was similar to the forging of a sword. He treated his body as the raw steel and the black ironstone as the anvil. Through repeated hits, he forged his body as a form of cultivation. After resting for 6 hours, Yi Yun felt that he had recovered. There were scabs on his hands, so it did not affect his movements. Yi Yun wrapped his wounds with cloth, and without any hesitation dived into the waterfalls. Splash! The water smashed into his body like a 1,000-pound jackhammer. Under the waterfall was a deep plunge basin. From the perennial impact from the waterfall, the plunge basin was of an unknown depth. From land, the plunge basin was emerald green with no obvious bottom. This was the deepest water body Yi Yun could find in the vicinity of the Lian tribal clan grounds. Yi Yun was practicing another stance of the Dragon-Ribbed Tiger Bonefist, dragon dancing in vast water. In actual fact, dragon dancing in vast water was not cultivated this way. The vast water referred to the ocean, but there was no ocean in the vast wilderness. Yi Yun could only use the plunge basin of a waterfall. Dragon dancing in vast water was a technique to train a body's internal organs. The more Yi Yun practiced Dragon-Ribbed Tiger Bonefist, the more he understood its subtleties. A warrior's strength and energy was easily cultivated. But it was much harder to cultivate the tendons, bones, and internal organs. In the stances of the Dragon-Ribbed Tiger Bonefist, a warrior could cultivate his tendons through Fierce Tiger descends the mountain by pulling his tendons like a bowstring, strengthening them tremendously. Using tiger claws smite rocks, he could train the bones like steel being forged repeatedly. As for the cultivation of organs, it was even harder. Organs were incomparable to tendons, as a warrior could not easily control his organs for training. So the creator of Dragon-Ribbed Tiger Bonefist had came up with the method of dragon dancing in vast water. Dragon dancing in vast water required a practitioner to jump into the ocean and reach a depth of 200 meters with one breath. The pressure at that depth was extremely high, enough to burst the eardrums and the organs of people. The water pressure would exert itself on a person's organs. Under prolonged periods of such pressure, a person's organs would become even tougher. Yi Yun took a deep breath and jumped down into the deep depths of the plunge basin while grabbing a heavy rock. Chapter 26, Thunderous. The emerald green plunge basin may look green on the surface, but it had an unimaginable depth. Yi Yun had previously tried exploring its depths but had never managed to dive to the bottom. After submerging himself at about a depth of 10 meters, he felt his ears hurting. Human ears were extremely vulnerable. The most unbearable pressure a diver experiences came from his ears. Martial artists were no different. As a person goes deeper, his eardrums will rupture before his organs could feel the pressure. Yi Yun blew up the air in his mouth. By increasing the pressure from his mouth, he could balance the external pressure surge, reducing the pain in his eardrums. After diving to an unknown depth, Yi Yun experienced poor light conditions underwater. Only by looking towards the water surface would he see the beautiful sunshine being transmitted down. In order to have a means of escaping danger, Yi Yun kept close to the cliff. Peppering the cliff were weird rocks. The rocks led downwards into a deeper depth that was complete darkness. It was a terrifying and bottomless darkness. Thankfully, Yi Yun had reached the Vigor realm, his breaths could last him a long while. With one breath, he was able to endure about 15 minutes. On Earth, the breath-holding record underwater was about 13 minutes. Of course, those people had undergone professional training, and if Yi Yun trained himself more, his timing would be longer. As the pressure increased, Yi Yun felt his lungs being compressed. His abdominal cavity was filled with bodily fluids. The ribs enclosing his lungs were under immense pressure. It was as if a huge bear was stepping on his chest.
Yi-Yun even heard the creaking sound of his ribs. If not for the bone training he had just completed, Yi-Yun's ribs would most definitely have broken.
With his abdominal cavity compressed, tremendous pressure was transferred to Yi-Yun's body, compressing his bodily fluids and organs.
Slowly, Yi-Yun felt his limit approaching. Diving was a dangerous sport.
The moment one lost consciousness due to the water pressure, one was undoubtedly doomed. The corpse would slowly fall to the bottom and get completely crushed. On Earth, deep diving enthusiasts had to make all sorts of preparations such as ropes, balloons, and other life-saving devices. As for Yi-Yun, he naturally had none of that. He had to rely on his own assessments.
Splash! Splash!
In the quiet depths underwater, Yi-Yun could hear his own heartbeat and even the sound of his blood flowing.
The sunlight in the mountains was already dimmer, but at these deep depths, one could say that Yi-Yun was totally surrounded by darkness.
Under a quiet, dark and high-pressure environment, the only thing that Yi-Yun could clearly feel was the purple crystal origins in his chest.
That cool feeling flowed through his bloodstream.
This cool feeling was like the fountain of life in fairy tales.
Although it was extremely weak, it could ensure Yi-Yun's survivability.
It allowed Yi-Yun to stay conscious under such extreme conditions. This situation resembled the time he experienced the cave-in back on Earth.
Trapped under the earth, the purple crystal had accompanied him in that quiet and dark environment.
Yi-Yun also felt that the purple crystal was like his life's last refuge. When his organs were damaged under the immense water pressure, the purple crystal would silently repair his organs. It allowed him to not only experience the immense water pressure but also recover in the shortest time possible.
Yi-Yun lost his sense of time underwater. He kept following the theories of Dragon Rib Tiger Bone Fist by circulating his energies. When he felt his breath was mostly used up, he began to swim upwards. Deep-sea divers would usually not have much energy or air.
As swimming upwards consumed a lot of energy, most people on Earth used devices like balloons to propel their bodies upwards, but Yi-Yun had to rely on himself. This was without question a great test for Yi-Yun's heart and lungs. Under such immense pressure, breathing and heart beating experienced 100 times more stress. Yi-Yun held his breath, and by virtue of his willpower and the lifeline provided by the purple crystal, he swam upwards meter by meter.
Splash! As Yi-Yun's head emerged from the water, he took in large gulps of air.
His face was pale. His lips were white and pupils constricted. Having dived to a depth of more than 100 meters for more than 20 minutes, Yi-Yun could not believe that he had done it without any device except a rock. He was surprised at the degree he performed dragon dancing in vast water for the first time.
Yi-Yun swam towards land.
His hair was dripping with water. After a few long breaths, he felt deeply that his body was no longer the same. The power of Desolate's energy had been digested. Before coming to the plunge basin, Yi-Yun felt bloated with energy, but after this round of cultivation, he felt extremely hungry. It was as if he had not eaten for 3 days. This was the effect of Dragon Rib Tiger Bone Fist. The Dragon Rib Tiger Bone Fist combined with the power of Desolates from the Desolate Bones had increased Yi-Yun's strength by leaps and bounds.
It really feels great. Yi-Yun could not help uttering a cry. Ka ka ka.
In the midst of this long cry, Yi-Yun's joints began to emit cracking sounds. Although they were not loud, they were extremely clear, like the sound of stirring steel pellets. Thunderous Realm, this must be Mortal Blood's third realm, Thunderous.
Yi-Yun was delighted.
The 5 levels of Mortal Blood were natural endpoints after sufficient training. Without any bottlenecks, as long as one worked hard, with sufficient energy supplied, anyone could reach the 5th level of Mortal Blood. Although anyone could reach level 5 of Mortal Blood, the difference in speed of doing so was great. A talented person would not only cultivate quickly, his fundamentals would be solid, making him much stronger than ordinary people. As for people with little talent, being stuck among the levels of Mortal Blood for 3 to 5 years wasn't uncommon.
Yi Yun knew that he lacked talent.
After tunneling through spacetime, he was a normal person who was thin and weak. He had little strength, amounting to the lifting of a 30 kilograms rock weight.
Such a body's talent could be in no way good. It was probably not far from one of the men refining the desolate bones, man's son, Datu. But with the help of the purple crystal, Yi Yun's cultivation had improved tremendously. In half a month, he was already at the 3rd level of mortal blood. Then was it possible for him to become a purple blood warrior in 2.5 months' time at the Tai Divine Kingdom warrior selection? With a purple blood warrior in this tiny tribe, it would cause a sensation and craze among the people. No matter who it was, if they could become a purple blood warrior in the Lian tribal clan, they would be worshipped. He would have the highest prestige and wield absolute power in the tribe to determine life and death. Yi Yun looked at the time. After this round of cultivation, it was already late afternoon. He had cultivated since morning. Yi Yun had once again not slept. Having just broken through to the mortal blood level 3's thunderous realm, Yi Yun did not feel a tinge of sleepiness. He meditated according to the dragon rib tiger bone fist methods for 2 hours, and felt as if he had slept soundly for 8 hours, feeling full of energy. It's about time to refine the desolate bones. I've cultivated the whole day. I'm so hungry. Yi Yun had not eaten for a day. Previously, he had the energy from the desolate bones to support him, so although his stomach was hungry, his body was able to provide him the energy without problems. But after undergoing the intense training from the dragon rib tiger bone fist, the desolate bone energy within Yi Yun's body had been depleted, so his hunger was much more unbearable. From the color of the sky, the sun was about to set. Yi Yun returned to the village. At the grain sunning ground, the cauldron was burning bright, and it was time to change shifts. Seeing Yi Yun return, Datua's father pointed to a stack of firewood and said straight, "These firewood. Chop them up for me. You didn't do anything last night. This place doesn't employ useless people. If you can't finish it, there will be no porridge for you today." Yi Yun was speechless upon hearing that. It was not as if he had eaten any porridge yesterday. The men had all rushed headlong into the fray. The number of rice grains Yi Yun had managed to receive could be counted with his fingers. The bucket of rice porridge was drank and licked cleanly that it didn't even need scrubbing. Yi Yun sat in the corner and began to chop the wood unhurriedly. This firewood was as thick as a fully grown leg. It had to be chopped apart before dicing it into uniform sizes, in order for the fire to burn uniformly. Without anyone realizing, a sheet of red and blue light that came from the cauldron, as Yi Yun chopped wood, now covered him. Previously, Yi Yun did not absorb all the energies from the herbs, leaving some soup for Lian Xingyu, because he was fearful that Lian Xingyu would realize something was amiss. But this time, for the desolate bones, it was different. Yi Yun was determined to absorb all the energy from the desolate bones, and increase his strength by leap and bounds. By then, he would no longer fear Lian Xingyu. Yi Yun felt a little sorry for Lian Xingyu. He confessed in his mind, "Young Master Lian, I'm sorry. If I don't reach the purple blood realm, then it's too bad. For me to finish up this set of desolate bones cleanly, with nothing left, I can only apologize. If through luck, I can reach the purple blood realm before I finish absorbing the desolate bones, then I'll, carry on sucking it dry. After all, the purple blood realm is just the beginning step on the martial arts road. There's still a long path ahead. So please be a good man till the end. I will always remember you in the future." After Yi Yun finished confessing, he began to absorb the desolate bones' energy. It was a tremendously comfortable feeling to be able to absorb the power of desolates without any restrictions while the body was seriously lacking in energy. The lack of energy and hunger, although they were two different feelings, they had much in common. In the case of extreme hunger, what greater joy was there besides having a sumptuous meal of delicacies? Yi Yun did not stand on ceremony with Lian Xingyu. He knew that the desolate bones' energy was so vast that he would need a while to absorb fully.
After all, Lian Xingyu's primitive methods of brewing the desolate bones could at best refine a small amount of the desolate bones' essence. Just this small amount of essence was enough for Lian Xingyu to break through to the purple blood realm. However, for Yi Yun, using the purple crystal to absorb the desolate bones' energy, he could absorb it completely and with high efficiency. Also, Yi Yun's cultivation level was still low at the thunderous realm. If the cultivation speed increased any faster, Yi Yun might even scare himself.
Chapter 27, Sick. Chapter 27, Sick. Yi Yun absorbed the desolate bones' energy at night, filling up his energy reserves. In the day, he would spy on the warrior preparation camps practicing, secretly listening in on Yao Yuan's teaching of dragon-ribbed tiger bone fist. The warrior preparation camp was not a restricted area. It was common for people to come and go.
As long as Yi Yun was careful, he would not be discovered. After learning the skills, Yi Yun would go to the back mountain to cultivate. He would digest the energy from the desolate bones, combining it into his body. Such a cultivation rhythm was perfect. Within days, Yi Yun's thunderous realm became more and more based. He could stay underwater for 25 minutes, almost as long as a dolphin. About a month before the Tai Divine Kingdom warrior selection, a man who was refining the bones with Yi Yun fell sick. Although Yi Yun had absorbed as much of the toxic blue light energies, there were still some light dots that entered the bodies of others, causing them to contract the so-called typhoid. After the first person fell sick, Yi Yun also fell sick, and his sickness was extremely serious. Yi Yun could no longer refine the desolate bones. According to Zhang Xiaoro, he had diarrhea, was pale in the face, and extremely weak.
Zhang Xiaoro had to take leave on his behalf as he was bedridden. Zhao Taizhu strained his ears to finish hearing Zhang Xiaoro's description. A delightful sense of schadenfreude engulfed him as he broke into a smile. Oh my, diarrhea? Pale in the face? Extremely weak? TSK, wasn't he pretty hardy? How could he be bedridden this time? Zhao Taizhu said it with an eccentric voice.
Zhang Xiaoro's face turned cold, as if in a rage. But in fact, she was just posturing. She of course knew Yi Yun was fine, and just pretending to be ill.
Your brother was originally a weakling. Even if he died, it wouldn't be a big deal.
But young Master Lian sure has a good heart, and has handed me the pills.
Zhao Taizhu said it as he reluctantly pulled out a red pill from his hip. Zhao Taizhu had no intention of giving Yi Yun the pill. He could only wish for Yi Yun's death, but he did not know why Lian Xingyu had high appraisals for Yi Yun, and specifically gave him the pill to pass to Yi Yun. He was to make sure that Yi Yun ate the pill. Did young Master Lian really think that highly of the little bastard?
Zhao Taizhu felt upset thinking of this.
Young Master Lian is such a good person. Young Master Lian is too kind.
At this time, as the men refining the desolate bones fell ill one after another, many people had gathered to obtain a pill. Having seen Zhao Taizhu take out the legendary pill that could bring people back from the dead to give to Yi Yun, the people began to sing praises of Lian Xingyu. These people had previously thought Lian Xingyu would ignore them. But seeing that a useless lad like Yi Yun could receive a pill, they thought their strong man at home would also receive one. Especially, the bulging bag Zhao Taizhu held in his other hand looked like it contained bacon.
These people became even more agitated.
The situation had put the crowd in a nearly uncontrollable frenzy.
Lord Zhao, my man in the house has fallen sick too. Lord Zhao, my child's father is seriously ill. He has been vomiting for 3 days. A crowd gathered around Zhao Taizhu hoping for a pill and some bacon.
Their eyes were full of hope. They were almost about to kowtow to Zhao Taizhu. Zhao Taizhu was pleased, for he enjoyed being praised by a crowd of people. He felt young Master Lian was too soft-hearted. Giving such precious pills and bacon to these poor commoners was such a waste. Zhao Taizhu had originally wanted to secretly eat a pill, but Lian Xingyu had warned him previously, so he had to give up on that thought. The fact that he had to personally deliver the pill to that monkey Yi Yun upset Zhao Taizhu tremendously.
Stop making a fuss. As long as you are really ill, there will be something for you.
Zhao Taizhu opened up the cloth bag and, after accounting
for the number of people, handed out the pills and bacon. Everyone who received a pill and bacon gave endless thanks. Thank you, Lord Zhao. Thank you, Lord Zhao. What are you thanking me for? You should thank young Master Lian. Young Master Lian will remember your sacrifice to the tribe. As long as you work hard refining the bones, young Master Lian and the tribe will not let you down. Zhao Taizhu said it with a sense of achievement. He had the illusion that he was representing the upper echelon of the Lian tribal clan. In fact, at that moment, Zhao Taizhu felt he was one of the upper echelon of the Lian tribal clan. Yes, yes. Thank you, young Master Lian, as some of the people knelt down and kowtowed towards the patriarch's compound.
Zhao Taizhu was pleased with the outcome. He had distributed most of the pills and bacon.
There were 2 pieces of bacon left. One of it was the biggest piece, and the other was the smallest piece. Of course, the biggest piece was left for himself. When Lian Xingyu allowed him to distribute the bacon, he had already reserved the largest piece for himself. There was a count of the number of pieces of bacon, so it was a problem if there was one less. The solution was to cut out a small piece from the second largest piece of bacon. Of course, this piece was the smallest piece of bacon. He gave this smallest piece of bacon to Jiang Xiero. This is yours. Zhao Taizhu said it straight. Seeing the tiny piece of bacon, Jiang Xiero knew Zhao Taizhu had did it on purpose. However, she knew it was pointless to argue, so she accepted the piece of bacon. Yunar had not had meat in a long while. How's your brother? Said Zhao Taizhu lazily as he kept the largest piece of bacon. Didn't I say so earlier? Replied Jiang Xiero sharply. Let me follow you back. What can I do? I have a good heart and I care for the citizens, said Zhao Taizhu as he made a division between himself and the commoners. The word citizens was extremely irksome to the ears. As for why he wanted to see Yi Yun was partly due to Lian Xingyu's instructions, or he couldn't be bothered less. Zhao Taizhu did not understand why Lian Xingyu was taking such care for the little monkey. Actually, Lian Xingyu had only said it to Zhao Taizhu casually, and did not take it to heart. He had aspirations higher than the sky, to become one who lords above all, and enjoy endless riches. Why would he bother about some small character like Yi Yun? He was just curious why Yi Yun had not died all this while. He had fell off a cliff when picking herbs the first time. He was even able to dig himself out after being buried. The second time was when he had secretly transmitted a fatal Yuan Qi into Yi Yun's body, but Yi Yun still did not die. Lian Xingyu wanted to know that with the refining of the desolate bones frost poison together with the toxicity of the blood-thinning pills, could Yi Yun still survive it? To Lian Xingyu, Yi Yun was like a C**Croach. Although a C**Croach was small and weak, it had an extremely tenacious vitality. Even after being squashed with its organs burst and losing the capacity to move, a C**Croach could still survive a day or two without food and water. Yi Yun was similar. Although he was so weak, he had survived numerous death experiences. Pang! The yard door was kicked open. Jiang Xiero asked with a crisp, angry voice, "What are you doing?" To see your brother." Zhao Taizhu strutted in and saw Yi Yun lying on the bed. Yi Yun's face was covered in sweat. His hair was wet and sticking to his forehead. There was a pot that seemed to contain vomit, emitting a sick. "Quickly eat this pill." Yi Yun picked up the blood-thinning pill on his blanket with a deadpan expression. Jiang Xiero rushed forward with a bowl of water. When Yi Yun held the blood-thinning pill, he could feel the energetic properties of the pill. There were pathetic amounts of energy in it. It did not contain any valuable herbs, but contained a very poisonous substance. A good pill contained energy within it. The pill's medicinal essence would spread through the body when a person consumes it. It will then naturally heal injuries, giving the person a new lease of life.
But a bad pill like the blood-thinning pill contained nearly no energy. It used the toxic substance to stimulate a person's potential, without any concern for the consequences. So although a person could recover quickly after eating this pill, it would greatly shorten the person's life. For a pill that did more harm than good, Yi Yun of course did not eat it. Although Zhao Taizhu was looking from the side, it wasn't hard for Yi Yun to deceive him. He ate the blood-thinning pill and drank a mouthful of water. It seemed like he drank a lot of water, but when the bowl was removed, Yi Yun had spit out all the water back into the bowl. Following that, Yi Yun looked as if it took a lot of work to swallow, but his mouth contained no water, so naturally nothing was actually swallowed. Immediately following that, Yi Yun would pretend that his body was weak to point that he had difficulties even in drinking water, and would cough violently. Zhang Shiro came forward with a cloth to wipe Yi Yun's mouth. In the process of wiping his mouth, Yi Yun spit out the blood-thinning pill without any trace, leaving the pill in the cloth. With the cloth scrunched up, nothing could be seen. Zhao Taizhu was full of disregard and impatience, so he did not see through Yi Yun's act. Even if it was Lian Xingyu who came, he would probably not have seen Yi Yun spit out the pill. After all, Yi Yun had the appearance of a 12-year-old. Who would think that he could be capable of such acts? Count your blessings. After eating this pill, it will not only save your life, but it will make you more energetic. It's better than looking like a ill-ridden weakling. Saying that, Zhao Taizhu walked off. After Zhao Taizhu left, Yi Yun scrutinized the blood-thinning pill in the cloth with a flash in his eyes. This Lian Xingyu is so cruel. To refine that set of desolate bones, he was prepared to kill numerous people. This strange world was unlike Earth. On Earth, there would be instances where a child brings a knife to school to stab another child to death after a quarrel between the two. These kind of situations were rare, and only seen on news networks like Tencent. But in this power-oriented strange world, such matters where someone could be killed over some words, could it still be labeled a matter? Because of the peaceful rule of law on Earth, murder was a huge deal, but over here, murder was as commonplace as slaughtering cattle. In fact, plenty of times, killing someone did not need a reason. Not looking right was sufficient reason. Chapter 28, Faking. With the blood-thinning pill handed out, all the men who had contracted typhoid recovered by the next day. Having received the elixir and bacon, they were naturally extremely grateful, and worked even harder to refine the desolate bones. Of course, Yi Yun was one of them. His recovery was the fastest, for he simply needed to wipe off the fake sweat, water he had sprayed on his face. As such, Yi Yun headed to the grain sunning ground the next morning as if full of energy. After this bout of illness, Yi Yun and the group changed from the night shift to the day shift. This suited Yi Yun's wishes since he could no longer learn much more from Yao Yuan's dragon-ribbed tiger bone fist. Yao Yuan was not planning to teach the remaining stances, but the first few stances was enough to occupy Yi Yun for a period of time. Refining the desolate bones in the day, and practicing in the back mountains at night made it more covert. "Kiddo Yun, is your body feeling better?" asked the auntie from next door. She had seen Yi Yun skipping down the road, as if he had excessive energy. "Auntie Wang, I'm totally fine. Thanks to young Master Lian's elixir." "Young Master Lian is such a great person," smiled Yi Yun, with a look of gratitude. As he went down the road, he boasted to others about the effectiveness of the blood-thinning pill. That's great, that's great," Auntie Wang said as she saw Yi Yun's energy, knowing that he had fully recovered. For an adult like Yi Yun, it was pretty awkward for him to skip down the road, but he was after all a 12-year-old child in the eyes of others. The age of 12 was when kids were the most playful. Yi Yun was noticed by Lian Xingyu because Lian Xingyu had felt he was too mature, unlike a child. A 12-year-old had to behave like a 12-year-old. If he acted as one occasionally, it would reassure people that nothing was out of the norm. "My family's man wanted to brew that bone soup thingy, but too bad he was not able to." "Kiddo Yun, you sure are lucky," Auntie Wang said with envy. "Ha, Auntie Wang, there's still some bacon left from the one I received."
I'll give you a piece tonight. Yi Yun said casually. He did not cherish this piece of bacon that were coveted by all these poor commoners. Actually, Yi Yun had cut a small piece from the bacon to feed a dog. Of course, that dog did not belong to Yi Yun's family, for a poor family did not have the means to rear a dog. Even if they did, the dog would have long been slaughtered and eaten. In the entire Lian tribal clan, only the warrior preparation camp reared a few dogs. All of these dogs were hunting dogs. As there were few wild beasts near the Wonderland, searching for rabbits without hunting dogs would be no different from searching for a needle in a haystack. Yi Yun had fed the meat to the dogs because he was worried that Lian Xingyu had poisoned the bacon. Although it was unlikely, Yi Yun had to be cautious. After seeing that the dog was all right, Yi Yun then allowed Jiang Shiro to use the meat for cooking. Yi Yun had not enjoyed the taste of meat for ages. However, the taste of the bacon wasn't great, as it had been cured far too long. The meat was hard and tasted like wood. It only tasted salty and lacked the fragrance of meat. But for such a piece of bacon, Jiang Shiro had insisted on leaving it for Yi Yun and refused to eat it. Yi Yun took a lot of effort to convince Jiang Shiro to have a small bite. Yi Yun did not eat much himself. He even hung the remaining meat on the wall. Yi Yun had aimed for the Tai Divine Kingdom warrior selection in 2 months, hence he was not concerned about this tasteless piece of bacon. He had heard from Jiang Shiro that the Auntie Wang from next door had taken care of them in the past, especially in the years after Yi Yun's mother had passed away. Jiang Shiro was always out of food before the ration distribution, and if not for Auntie Wang giving them some food, they would have long starved to death. It was a great, kind debt. After all, few people would give their food to others in this world. It was much more difficult than lending money on earth. Hence, giving this piece of bacon to Auntie Wang was fitting. How can you? Kiddo Yun, you and your sister are undergoing puberty, it was hard for you to obtain this meat. Auntie can't accept it. Auntie Wang said firmly, giving mixed feelings to Yi Yun. In this poor and backward tribe, although there were many obstinate citizens and wicked people, but there were people like Auntie Wang who thought of others even when they were starving. Such a land could actually produce all kinds of people. Auntie Wang, Xiaoke, is also in the growing stage. Even if you don't eat it, Xiaoke would need to. Auntie Wang's child, Zhou Xiaoke, was about the same age as Yi Yun. When they were young, she used to follow Yi Yun all around. With Xiaoke growing up and full of life, together with Yi Yun's resurrection, the two had interacted a lot less. Auntie, say no more. I'm going to brew the bone soup. Yi Yun did not wait for Auntie Wang's reply before running away. This kid. Auntie Wang shook her head, but a happy smile plastered her face. In the Lian tribal clan's patriarch compound, Lian Xingyu was standing in the middle of the stone courtyard, practicing his boxing. He wore a loose practice suit. This practice suit was made of a rare silk fabric uncommonly found in the Lian tribal clan. It was very expensive. This practice suit was smooth and soft to the touch, and was extremely comfortable when worn. Lian Xingyu walked in circles with varying speeds. When he was slow, he was like an old man exercising in the morning, but when he was fast, he was like a cheetah hunting a prey. Through it all, Lian Xingyu's eyes were focused on his fingertips. His arms were like a snake sliding through the woods, making it difficult to determine where he would launch his attack. Zhao Taizhu stood silently by the side, waiting for Lian Xingyu to finish his practice. After about half an hour, Lian Xingyu was finally done. He held his hands by his waist and spit out a breath arrow. This arrow flew far without dissipating. Spitting out a breath arrow was the symbol of the Vigor Realm, but Lian Xingyu's breath was no longer a simple Vigor Realm's breath. It was powered from the Mortal Blood's 5th level, Qi Gatherer. Lian Xingyu was able to gather the Yuan Qi from the environment into his body, so the air he spit out was not only air, but also consisted of Yuan Qi. Fabulous! It's absolutely fabulous, shouted Zhao Taizhu as he saw Lian Xingyu finish. His eyes lit up as he began to kiss ass.
This strength, this skill, in the warrior selection in 2 months, young master will definitely become a kingdom knight of the Tai Divine Kingdom.
Zhao Taizhu began his flattery once again. Lian Xingyu's strength was indeed not bad.
For him to have that ambition, he had to have the means to do so. He had reached the 5th level of mortal blood the previous year, so the few punches he displayed were reminiscent of a master's.
Cut the crap, how is the refining of the desolate bones? Everything is going as per normal.
It has to be normal, said Zhao Taizhu as he patted his chest. Those cheap people were extremely grateful after receiving young master's bacon and drugs.
They wish they could refine the bones all day.
Give them some of the herbal dregs then, said Lian Xingyu casually. The herbal dregs were of no more value to him.
Suddenly, Lian Xingyu asked, "Right, what happened to that Yi Yun?"
Yi Yun, Zhao Taizhu gave a look of disdain.
That kid fell sick a few days ago and had diarrhea, and was covered with sweat.
The entire house stank. He was no different from a beggar. If not for young master's mercy, he would have long died without the elixir. Lowly me followed young master's instructions and saw with my own eyes that the kid swallowed the pill. But thankfully, that kid still has some conscience. These few days he had been going around singing praises of young master, saying that he could recover all thanks to young master's medicine. This, Lian Xingyu's mouth formed into a gentle arc after listening to Zhao Tiezhu's narration. This tribe of cheap lives, each more foolish than the preceding one. He thought that there were a few clever ones in the tribe like Yi Yun, but it seemed he had worried too much.
Chapter 29, Opening Up the Meridians.
As the days went by, the Lian tribal clan's back mountain was dotted with Yi Yun's footsteps. Yi Yun would refine the bones at night, peak at the warrior preparation camp in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day in the back mountain cultivating. Only at dusk did he return home to sleep for 2 hours.
Yi Yun's cultivation was extremely tough, but it also caused his strength to jump leaps and bounds.
The back mountain was separated a distance from the herb mountain, and since his location was very far from the village, few people ever came here in the day. At night, there wasn't even a shadow, so Yi Yun could train at ease.
15 days later. Ha! Yi Yun roared, as his body shot up like an arrow into the sky.
He had leaped past a 10-meter-high rock.
With the air ringing in his ears, every joint in Yi Yun's body cracked loudly like a dragon or tiger's roar. Fierce tiger descends the mountain.
Yi Yun kept his body taut with his feet pressed against his hip, before sending a punch flying out.
Twang!
Yi Yun's body emitted a clear sound. It was the sound of a strong bow's twang.
This was made by Yi Yun's tendons.
Compared to Yao Yuan, this sound was even more intense.
Ka-cha!
A huge rock crumbled in front of Yi Yun as he smashed through it with a punch.
Spider web-like cracks appeared throughout the rock.
This was no ordinary rock, but one made of black ironstone. It was stronger than ordinary rocks, but today it had been smashed by Yi Yun's punch. Chirp! 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 In the forest, several birds flew away in fright. All the bugs and frogs quietened immediately due to the shock. At that moment, the entire mountain was silent. Only leaves and bird feathers fell to the ground, or onto Yi Yun's head and shoulders.
Thunder occurring in the 9 clouds, surprise Bowdrop's flock.
My fists have reached such a state. Currently, when Yi Yun exerted all his energies, his joints would crack loudly, with a thunderous sound. As for surprise Bowdrop's flock, it would only be possible for a lone injured goose.
Because even a 9-sure strongbow would have trouble intimidating a flock to drop.
A casual movement of Yi Yun's body issued ka-ka-ka sounds. His bones were well forged like metal and his tendons were as strong as dragon ribs.
My current level has been fully consolidated. It's time to attempt at opening my channels and enter the 4th realm of meridians.
The human body had meridians, but ordinary people did not have their meridians opened, so they were unable to complete a circulation to accommodate the Yuan Qi from heaven and earth. When a warrior practiced the arts, he would attempt to clear his meridians after his body was completely trained.
It was the first step on the path of martial arts.
A human's channels consisted of 12 regular meridians and 8 special meridians. The 12 regular meridians spread throughout a person's limbs. They were the 3 Armene meridians, lung, pericardium, heart, 3 Armyang meridians, large intestine, triple burner, small intestine, 3 leg yang meridians, stomach, gallbladder, bladder, and 3 legine meridians, spleen, liver, kidney. As for the 8 special meridians, they spread throughout the body. The most 2 important special meridians were the Ren du Er Mai. The position of the Ren du Er Mai is in the central axis line of a person, and will be seen as a straight line from the front. The Ren vein is located in the front, while the Du vein is in the back. The 2 lines circle into a bundle in a person's body, passing through the Dan Tian and Huiyin. Like 2 ropes that pass through a person's crotch, they held up a person's body. There were broken channels between the Ren du Er Mai. When the Ren du Er Mai was opened up, the broken channels would heal up, forming a central expressway for a person's energy to fully circulate. So to be able to open up the Ren du Er Mai was an important step to opening up the entire body's meridians. In the wuxia novel Zi Yun had previously read, there were multiple ways to open the Ren du Er Mai. For example, Zhang Wuji used the Heaven and Earth Great Shift to open up his meridians, while Xu Zhu opened up his meridians by inheriting the powers of Li Qiushui and Tonglao. Including the ancient medical books, there were multiple records on how to open up the Ren du Er Mai. The moment the Ren du Er Mai was opened, a person would be rejuvenated and enjoy a boost in power. The perfect outcome of the meridians would pave the way for a higher realm of martial arts in the future. Yi Yun crossed his legs and sat down. He began to accumulate his energies to open up his meridians. As long as he opened up his meridians, Yi Yun's strength would be about the same level as a peerless expert from those wuxia novels. In ancient China, he would be able to walk up walls, settle any grievances, and behead the general of an entire enemy division. There were 2 ways to open up the Ren du Er Mai. One was to rely on external help, while the other was to depend on himself. In the novels, there would be peerless experts helping the main character to open up the Ren du Er Mai, causing the main character to increase in strength. This was also known as power transfer. It may be fast, but it was not the proper way. It was better to cultivate by himself. Of course, Yi Yun chose the second method of opening up his meridians by himself. Written in the dragon rib tiger bone fist was a way to open up the meridians. By sitting cross-legged, every breath should be made as long as possible. Once a warrior reaches the 3rd level of mortal blood, their breaths would mix with the energy accumulated in their body, causing a circulation that spread like fire. Yi Yun consciously sent that energy to his Dan Tian and compressed it. Again and again, Yi Yun's body was filled with energy. His breaths increased in speed, but each breath was deeper than the last. Obtaining the essence of the sun and moon, and breathing in the heaven-earth Yuan Qi. If someone looked from a distance, they would see Yi Yun's body engulfed in a thin layer of faint light. Especially Yi Yun's chest. There was a purple light concentrated there which slowly spread throughout his body. This was the light the purple crystal origins emitted after absorbing the Yuan Qi from the surroundings. When Yi Yun breathed out, the purple crystal in his heart would absorb the energies from the surroundings, helping Yi Yun's last effort in trying to open up the meridians. Slowly, the purple light surrounding Yi Yun grew denser. This purple light resembled the ancient Chinese legends of purple air comes from the east, a symbol of a saint. With the energy accumulated time and time again, Yi Yun's body began to make sounds resembling the roars of dragons and tigers. His blood flow was like a mighty stream, flowing without restraint. With each breath, the air around Yi Yun swirled rapidly. It was as astonishing as a whale sucking in water. Phew, phew, phew. Yi Yun's breaths became more and more heavy. Every breath would muster up his body was like a boat being roughed up by the waves. As his body moved up and down, the energy in Yi Yun's body began to condense. His tendons began to emit twang-like sounds, while his skin was like blown-up leather. His bones emitted popping sounds. When this accumulated to its extremes, Yi Yun felt his body about to explode. He controlled his energy and sent the heat flow towards his dantian, wave after wave, as if they were crashing on the rocks. Yi Yun slowly began to approach his limit. When the small vessels on the surface of his body was about to burst, he heard a boom. With Yi Yun in the center, energy exploded out. The rock Yi Yun was sitting on cracked, and the trees in a 5-meter radius broke. Yi Yun felt his body go limp. His nostrils, ears were all bleeding. But this wasn't fresh blood but black blood. Including Yi Yun's pores, a grayish sweat pulp oozed out. It's done. 4th level of mortal blood, meridians. Yi Yun knew that he had finally opened up his meridians, and had become equal to a hero from a wuxia novel. When Yi Yun read novels in his youth, he had often dreamed of becoming a handsome gallant, walking up walls, upholding justice, and settling grievances. As for today, he had finally obtained that power. However, in this strange world, the energy was much richer than on Earth. Opening up the Rendu Ermai on Earth would make one a peerless master, but that would be because Earth did not have the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi. But in this world, not only was there Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi, there was also power of desolates, psychic powers and other mysterious energies Yi Yun was still unable to understand. These energies were as powerful as the nuclear powers on Earth. These energies could be used by himself, so the 4th stage of mortal blood, meridians, was just infant steps on the path of martial arts. Yi Yun leaped up from the ground. He could clearly see and feel his surroundings. He knew everything that occurred within a 10-foot radius, every rustle of the leaves and every squirm of a worm was heard loud and clear. He could count the number of leaves that had dropped in front of him with a glance. There were 32 leaves. With a clear awareness and a sharp mind, many martial artist experts had an eidetic memory. This was a result of their meridians opening up, resulting in an improvement of their brain's capabilities. After all, the Rendu Ermai cycles through the brain. With the energy passing through the brain, it improves a person's memory and reactions. It feels awesome. So awesome. Having undergone a body transformation, Yi Yun was extremely delighted. He had perfectly broken through into the 4th level of mortal blood's meridians. Not only that, he had experienced another round of marrow cleansing. Mortals eat all sorts of grains, causing their bodies to be filled with impurities. Before reaching the purple blood realm, it was a necessity to undergo a round of marrow cleansing. The more thorough a marrow cleansing was, the better it was. Yi Yun, having gone through it twice, had less dirt than the previous time. Yi Yun undressed himself and jumped into the plunge basin for a bath. He dived dozens of meters deep, and held his breath underwater for about 20 minutes before swimming back up. Pwah! Yi Yun emerged out of the water like a giant carp, creating an explosion of water droplets. He was buck naked. Without any change of clothes, Yi Yun wore his old damp clothes. This set of clothes was soaked with water. It stuck to Yi Yun's body, clearly outlining the firm curves of his body. After days of arduous practice, Yi Yun's muscles had grown firmer, and his body shape was getting better by the day. He had also grown taller, becoming a handsome young lad. Yi Yun gave off a brand new aura after breaking into the Meridian's realm. He stood on a large rock, with his body like a sheathed sword. He had an overpowering presence. Under the soft moonlight, it illuminated Yi Yun's delicate skin, making it shimmer like mercury. Such a young lad no longer looked like a poor kid who had nothing to eat. Although he was like an uncarved sculpture, he was like a diamond in the rough. The clothes he wore could only be described as rags, but it could not conceal his shimmering aura. Chapter 30, Jin Longwei ***. Having broken into the Meridian realm, the world seemed different to Yi Yun. He did not need to use the purple crystal origins to perceive the ubiquitous Yuan Qi in this world. This Yuan Qi was like the air, it would enter his body with each breath and be exhausted from his pores. This subtly changed Yi Yun's physique. Heaven Earth Yuan Qi had a higher grade of energy than food. Normal people ate grains, but a cultivator could use the heaven-earth yuan qi as their energy source.
Upon reaching a certain level, they could avoid eating grains completely.
In ancient China, Zhuangzi, a happy excursion, contained the records of doesn't eat the 5 grains, but sucks the wind and drinks the dew. It meant that a person could survive solely on the energies provided by the heaven and earth, losing the need to eat the 5 grains. Such a survival method allowed a person's body to be purer. With fewer impurities, they could also live longer. The ancients held this state in high esteem, so there were plenty of documentation in the ancient books.
Of course, Yun was still far from the state of avoiding grains.
Yun felt that even if he had reached the state where he could avoid grains, he felt that he would never succumb to that state. On earth, Yun was a glutton, that lacks sophistication. It should be said that Yun was a food connoisseur, yes, a food connoisseur. The former was a symbol of laziness and gluttony, while the latter was for someone who could enjoy the beauties of life.
Yun not only enjoyed eating, he was also a good cook.
He had lived alone for a long time on earth. Although his dishes were not comparable to a top chef, his home cooking was absolutely delicious. If Yun had worked hard to build a career after 2 years, with his looks and culinary skills, he would be an extremely eligible bachelor in the eyes of women. Unfortunately, with the tunneling through spacetime, he had to start from scratch. In the poor insufferable Lian tribal clan, Yun could not display his culinary skills. Yun could only hope that he would lead a good life in the future. He would set up a table of delicacies to reward himself. As for avoiding grain, sucking the wind, drinking the dew can all go to hell. Such a way of living was terrifying.
If he could not satisfy his taste buds, wouldn't that be a great loss in the pleasures of life?
Having arrived in this strange world for a month, the only meat Yun had seen was that piece of bacon. Although it tasted bad, it was still meat. With the bacon finished, there was only coarse grain porridge.
Yun's taste buds were crying in dissatisfaction.
Of course, under his conditions, Yun could only endure the gut-wrenching hunger and replenish his energy using the Desolate Bones essence.
Thankfully, the Desolate Bones essence tasted great.
Since the Lian tribal clan has withheld the food, leaving no food for me, I'll eat their Desolate Bones essence. After all, he had already decided to absorb the Desolate Bones essence clean. Yun was not planning to stand on ceremony and decided to absorb as much essence as he wanted today with the aid of the purple crystal's capabilities. It was what Yun had always been doing, but there was a disruption in his plans today. At dawn, Yun realized that the tribe was extremely lively when he returned to the village. The young and old from the tribe had came out of their houses. They had gathered in the square in front of the patriarch's compound, causing the tiny square to be filled with people.
In the midst of the crowd, there was a massive object about the size of a hill. Yun focused on it and was surprised.
That small hill-like object was a huge beast. Yun was stunned. How could such a huge beast appear in the Lian tribal clan?
Looking at the head of the beast, it was absolutely mighty. One such beast could easily level the entire Lian tribal clan.
But with so many people crowding around it, the huge beast clearly was not on the offensive, cohabiting with the Lian tribe in that small space peacefully.
Oh! Yun's mind suddenly flashed, this beast. He recalled to the day he had crossed into this world. He had seen a huge beast running in the wilderness while returning home with Jiang Xiaoro.
That beast was about 10 meters long, with sharp fangs and muscular limbs that resembled metal pillars. Its running speed was extremely fast. And on the back of that monster was a man, who had a sword slung on his back.
That man's aura was commanding and extremely terrifying. That scene had left a deep impression on Yun.
After all, being an earthling, such a scene was extremely shocking. And now, this huge beast in the square looked identical to that beast running through the fields.
It might even be the same beast. Yun suddenly understood that someone important had arrived in the Lian tribal clan.
This huge beast was the VIP's mount.
How could Yun miss such an important matter?
He flew quickly towards the square. En route, Yi Yun saw the villagers celebrating, as if it were the new year.
Yi Yun also listened in to the conversations.
These conversations made Yi Yun's heart race. The owner of the huge beast was a member of the Jin Longwei. The Jin Longwei was the elite military division of the Tai Divine Kingdom. The levels of the leading members were above the Purple Blood realm. With the basic units comprised of Purple Blood warriors, the Jin Longwei's battle prowess was unbeatable. The person who founded the Jin Longwei was the founding emperor of the Tai Divine Kingdom. Back then, the Tai Emperor led the Jin Longwei across the lands, laying the foundation of the Tai Divine Kingdom. This devastating division, the Jin Longwei carried on its legacy till now, for an unknown number of generations.
Chosen personnels at the Tai Divine Kingdom warrior selection would enter the Jin Longwei reserves.
They would first cultivate in the reserves, and after passing the evaluations, they could become an official member. But to pass the evaluations was extremely difficult. If they failed the final evaluation, they would be sent to the regular army.
It will then end their journey towards being an elite member of the Jin Longwei.
If he's a Jin Longwei member, then that is to say this person who came to our tribe must be at least a Purple Blood warrior. A Purple Blood warrior from the Jin Longwei was totally different in battle prowess from a Purple Blood warrior born from the Cloud Wilderness. In actual fact, the Jin Longwei member who came to the Lian tribal clan was an expert at the peak of the Purple Blood realm. Having reached such a level, and having been well honed in the Jin Longwei, his battle prowess was unmatchable.
He was an elite warrior of the Jin Longwei.
For such a person who came to the vast wilderness, even the patriarch of 100,000 large tribe would have to bow respectfully. To the Lian tribal clan, such a status was terrifying. As such, the upper echelon of the Lian Xingyu went all out.
Lian Xingyu and the patriarch put on their biggest smiles while leading the welcoming party. Yi Yun had also seen it clearly.
The man was the same man he had seen when he first arrived into this strange world. He had a commanding aura, and exerted a pressure even from afar.
It's indeed him. Yi Yun's mind began to light up.
This was the second time meeting him. Having met him just after tunneling into this world, it was definitely not a coincidence. Thinking it through, ever since coming into this world, and from his understanding of the Cloud Wilderness, he knew that the Cloud Wilderness, and especially the Lian tribal clan, was a poor tribe that no expert would ever bother with. That is to say, being an elite of the Jin Longwei, he must have his reasons for staying around the Lian tribal clan for such a long period.
But what could be the reason? Translator note: Jin Long means beautiful, bright dragon.
Jin Longwei will roughly mean bright dragon guard.
Chapter 31, Preliminaries.
As Yi Yun was in deep thought, someone caught his glance. Ever since breaking into the Meridian's realm, his five senses were extremely keen. He spotted Jiang Shuro, who was looking around while tiptoeing among the tumultuous masses.
Sis Shuro! Yi Yun let out a cry. Yunar! Having seen Yi Yun, Jiang Shuro was pleased. Oh, Yunar you!
She felt that a difference in Yi Yun today, but she could not put her thumb on it. If one were to describe the Yi Yun of the past, it would be a submissive, harmless child. The present Yi Yun was that of a smart-looking, handsome young lad.
Even his rag-like clothes could not suppress Yi Yun's aura of elegance. A diamond in the rough.
Jiang Shuro suddenly recalled this phrase. Every good sword was hidden within a sheath, waiting for the day it would be unsheathed. The present Yi Yun gave Jiang Shuro such a feeling. However, only Jiang Shuro could feel that difference because she was extremely familiar with Yi Yun from their constant interaction. For people not familiar with Yi Yun, they would only find something different and brush it off. After all, Yi Yun was a ill kid who was good for nothing.
Sis Shuro, I'm fine, Yi Yun laughed.
He knew that his aura had changed after breaking through into the Meridian's realm.
Let's see what's going on.
He grabbed Jiang Shuro's hand naturally and pushed through the crowd. Having reached the Meridian's realm, an invisible force would push the people apart with a stretch of his hand, allowing him easy passage.
People who came round to figuring out what happened would only see a kid passing through.
By the time they had a response, they would think that Ian's body was small, allowing him to squeeze through the masses. At the center of the square, the Lien tribal clan upper echelon were still carefully giving the sword-bearer a proper reception.
Xingyu, give the order. Kill the cows and set up a feast. The patriarch waved his hand, although his heart ached. The tribe reared a few cattle. It was the entire fortune of the Lien tribal clan. Although the cattle looked similar to the cattle on Earth, their strength was much greater. In the wilderness, rocks littered the ground. Some of the rocks were black ironstone. Opening up a piece of land for agriculture was extremely difficult. Without the cattle, the Lien tribal clan would not be able to produce any food. And when that happens, the Lien tribal clan would totally rely on the Tao tribal clan for food. Hence, in the Lien tribal clan, each cow's value was worth more than 10 lives. It sounded pathetic, but that was reality. With the Jin Longwei arriving in the Lien tribal clan, the tribe had to entertain the guests. However, the tribe had been tightening the belt for the refinement of the desolate bones, so there was no food left. They could only resort to killing the cattle. The sword-bearer naturally knew that the small tribes in the wilderness led tough lives. He said coolly, "You don't have to kill the cattle. I met several fierce beasts who attacked me on the way here. I killed them and stored the meat on the near-horn beast as rations. You just need to get people to take it down and cook it." The man may have said it without any flair, but the people of the Lien tribal clan were shocked. In the Cloud Wilderness, there were 3 types of beasts that would attack humans. They were the wild beasts, fierce beasts, and the desolate beasts. Wild beasts were the most common kind of beasts. They were similar to tigers and leopards on Earth. An experienced hunter, even if they lacked martial arts, would be able to capture one using traps. As for fierce beasts, they were a power unto itself. They were comparable in strength to a purple blood warrior. There were extremely many fierce beasts in the Cloud Wilderness. In fact, the greatest threat hunters of the tribe who went out to hunt were these fierce beasts. Although desolate beasts were strong, but they would lay dormant in areas known as desolate lands that had dense amounts of power of desolates. As long as one avoided the desolate lands, they would be safe. However, the spread of fierce beasts was too wide, it was unavoidable. A purple blood realm warrior had the ability to hunt, not only because they had the ability to kill many fierce beasts, but because if they couldn't defeat one, they had no trouble escaping. This sword-bearer had crossed the wilderness and easily killed numerous fierce beasts. Such strength was very enviable. Lien Xingyu took a deep breath and clenched his fists. The large bulging bag on the near-horn beast was clearly the meat hunted from the fierce beasts. One day, I would eventually have that strength, and would even far exceed that. Lien Xingyu decided. Hearing that they did not need to kill the cattle, the patriarch was delighted. Still, he politely said, "How can that do? We can't let a guest prepare the food. Our Lien tribal clan may be poor, but..." "Enough, you don't have to carry on. My trip here is on official business," said the sword-bearer with an authoritative voice. He was not interested in the fake niceties the Lien tribal clan displayed. "High Ambassador, please speak. Although my Lien tribal clan is nothing, but it has thousands of people. If the High Ambassador has any requests that would need us, please speak your mind." The patriarch spoke humbly without any vexation from having his words cut off. He knew that a member of the Jin Longwei would not come to such a worthless place like the Lien tribal clan. The man said, "Recently, the Cloud Wilderness had a huge event. And the location of the Lien tribal clan happens to be within the area of the event. The Jin Longwei is here for that reason." As the man's voice tapered off, the patriarch's expression changed. Something happened in the Cloud Wilderness? Furthermore, from the tone of his words, he was just one of the many Jin Longwei members who came.
An event that could be considered great by the Jin Longwei was something the Lian tribal clan could not even fathom. He did not know if it was a blessing or curse for the Lian tribal clan to be within the event's area of influence. If they got engulfed by such a big matter, the ant-like existence of the Lian tribal clan would be extinguished without a sound. Seeing the patriarch's expression, the man said coolly, "This matter shouldn't involve you. However, there will be plenty of people passing the vicinities of your tribe. There may be many big shots among them. It's best not to offend them." "Yes, Olmi will bear what High Ambassador says in mind," nodded the patriarch. The man carried on, "My visit to the Lian tribal clan was a matter of convenience. My superiors have ordered me to give you some pointers in preparation for the soon-to-be kingdom's selection." Having said that, the man turned towards the tribe. His voice was loud and clear even 10 miles away. Momentarily, the rambunctious crowd was silenced. "My name is Zhang Yuxian. Remember well. My visit here to the Lian tribal clan is to choose 30 youngsters below the age of 28 as my temporary disciples. I will give pointers on your stances and techniques. I will only be here for about 3 to 5 days. You will need to work hard. If you understand the content I teach, you will definitely pass the kingdom's selection." The Lian tribal clan held their breath the moment Zhang Yuxian said those words. The kingdom's selection. It was tied to their future. The entire tribe had burnt their bridges to ensure that Lian Xingyu passed the warrior selection. The members of the warrior preparation camp were especially excited. They were so excited that they had trouble breathing. An expert from the Jin Longwei actually came to their Lian tribal clan to give them pointers on their skills and techniques. This was such a good thing. They did not harbor any hope at passing the kingdom's selection, but if they received Zhang Yuxian's pointers and learned an advanced skill from the Jin Longwei, it would aid them in their future growth. When Lian Xingyu eventually passed the kingdom's selection and entered the city, those who were stronger could win themselves riches. The 30 people will be chosen by me. The participants of the kingdom's selection will also be chosen from those 30. In other words, those not chosen by me will not be qualified to participate in the kingdom's selection. After hearing Zhang Yuxian's words, Yun suddenly understood. This Zhang Yuxian was the kingdom selection's first examiner. The kingdom's selection was rarely held in the Cloud Wilderness. There was a lack of resources in the Cloud Wilderness, so the warrior's average strength was low. Since the distribution was wide, it was hard to hold an examination. To ensure that all the tribes could participate in an examination would involve large amounts of manpower and resources. So having an experienced elite Jin Longwei like Zhang Yuxian do a preliminary selection would save a lot of time. Now, all those who wish to become a temporary disciple of mine by participating in a 3-day training period, and wish to participate in the kingdom's selection, step forward. I will choose 30. A commotion arose the moment Zhang Yuxian finished his sentence. The members of the warrior preparation camp were the first to lunge forward with all their might. Those who knew how to read the attitudes like Zhao Taizhu first looked at Lian Xingyu for approval before they squeezed forward to be before Zhang Yuxian. In a short moment, the entire warrior preparation camp's members had stood forward. There were about 60 people in the warrior preparation camp, and those who matched the age requirement numbered about 40. Zhang Yuxian was only going to choose 30, which meant there would be about a dozen people who would be eliminated. The weaker members of the warrior preparation camp became nervous, afraid they would be brushed off by Zhang Yuxian. Chapter 32: The weak are enslaved as slaves. Everyone is here, Lord Zhang. Please take your pick. Of course, lowly me will want to participate in the kingdom's selection. If possible, I wish to be a subordinate of the Lord, receiving the Lord's teachings, said Lian Xingyu respectfully. Zhang Yuxian took a glance at Lian Xingyu and measured him up. Oh? What is your cultivation level? A mortal blood warrior was after all in the beginning stages of cultivation, all they practiced were skills that involved their bodies. The 5 levels in mortal blood were classified by a person's physical phenomena. Hence, it was hard to tell with a look that a person had opened up their meridians, or if their bones and tendons could make sounds. Only a person who had reached a cultivation level at the spiritual level could sense a person's level of accomplishment. This was called opening heaven's eyes. Only then could they judge a mortal blood warrior's cultivation level. Evidently, Zhang Yuxian had not reached such a level. Answering the Lord, Lowly Ni has reached the peak of mortal blood level 5, Qi Gatherer. I'm one step short of the purple blood realm. Oh? Zhang Yuxian furrowed his brows. To be able to reach such a level while growing up in a small tribe that lacks resources. You must either have exceptional talent or have had an opportunist event. Either way, it's all very good. Zhang Yuxian nodded, saying, "Stay behind then." "Thank you for the Lord's appraisal," Lian Qingyu said respectfully. He was not overjoyed because he had taken for granted that he would pass Zhang Yuxian's assessment. His goal was the kingdom's selection. If he could not even pass the preliminaries, there was no point talking about his high ambitions. After choosing Lian Qingyu, Zhang Yuxian turned his head and looked towards the members of the warrior preparation camp. He stared at them for 5 minutes before feeling a sense of disappointment. Besides Lian Qingyu, no one else in the entire Lian tribal clan caught his eye. He could only choose a general from among the dwarves. He reluctantly began choosing some. Although he was ordered by his superiors to choose 30, Zhang Yuxian had his own principles. He could not be bothered to teach those who seriously lacked talent. Is there no one else in the Lian tribal clan who want to participate in the kingdom's selection? Zhang Yuxian's eyes swept through the commoners of the Lian tribal clan. Coming into contact with Zhang Yuxian's glance, the people were a prudent lot. They too wanted to be given pointers from a legendary person like Zhang Yuxian. But they could not even make ends meet, so they knew no martial arts. Even if they stood forward, they would be brushed off by Zhang Yuxian. It would only be humiliating to step forward, the entire tribe will mock his feeble attempts. The commoner's reaction was within Lian Qingyu's expectations. He laughed, saying, "Sorry for the joke displayed before the Lord, the ones who practice martial arts in the tribe are all here. As for the rest, they are commoners who are good for nothings. They are only good for agriculture and picking herbs. They are not suited for martial arts, so may the Lord not pay attention to these people, may the Lord please." Before Lian Qingyu finished, a voice rang from the crowd, "Please let me through." In a moment, a growing boy holding on to a young lass had squeezed out of the crowd. Yi Yun was originally late, so he was in the outer layers of the crowd. He did not enjoy the good positions afforded to the warrior preparation camp members. Yun'er, Zhang Xiao had been pulled forward before she could grasp the situation. Only when she went through the last layer of the crowd did she realize where she and Yi Yun were. Zhang Xiao was dazed. This was the center of the square. Seeing Zhang Yuxian surrounded by the Lian tribal clan's upper echelon standing in front of her, Zhang Xiao was momentarily lost. And at this moment, Zhang Xiao felt Yi Yun release her hand, and saw him walking forward. He stopped walking only when he reached the group of warrior preparation camp members. Zhang Xiao's mouth gaped, but nothing came out of her mouth. As for Lian Qingyu, his smile froze. All the members of the warrior preparation camp were also stunned. Zhang Yuxian looked surprisingly at Yi Yun, asking, "You want to participate?" "Yes, milord," said Yi Yun in a short but powerful voice. Those words stunned the crowd into silence. Everyone looked flabbergasted at Yi Yun. This Yi Yun must be mad? He didn't know his place. He was like a little chick and probably didn't even weigh 80 pounds. All the strong men in the crowd who were ineligible were stronger than him by 100 times. Besides, Yi Yun had never practiced martial arts. He had almost died picking herbs. He couldn't even chop the firewood for the desolate bones well, and he wanted to sign up? The men who wanted but did not dare sign up looked furiously at the young kid, Yi Yun. This kid is creating trouble at such an occasion, does he not want to live? When a person sees another with courage do something he lacked the courage to do, it was often he would feel a sense of envy. Many of the commoners in the Lian tribal clan were precisely in that situation.
Yi Yun, you little slave. How dare you show no respect for your elders? Today's situation is not one you can mess with. Get the F***K down.
Lian Xingyu did not expect a retard like Yi Yun to have such actions on such an important occasion. Yi Yun was just a child, and he was the weakest among the children. To dare sign up for the selection, it was clearly him using Zhang Yuxian to pass time.
It was so humiliating. It could even damage his reputation in front of Zhang Yuxian.
Zhang Yuxian would think that he had disciplinary troubles, that he could not even control a child. Yi Yun took a glance at Lian Xingyu and responded to his atrocities calmly and sharply. In the wilderness, the weak are enslaved as slaves.
To put it bluntly, the weak are slaves.
If my strength is weak, then it is only right to call me a slave.
I will not retort that.
But if one day, young Master Lian meets a person stronger than himself, he too will become a slave.
What does young Master Lian think of that? Lian Xingyu's expression changed. He was furious. What was this? A little slave in the tribe dared to talk to him like that. If not for Zhang Yuxian, Lian Xingyu would have killed Yi Yun with a slap. The weak are enslaved as slaves? Zhang Yuxian smirked. He did an unexpected glance at Yi Yun. Interesting. To have such insight despite being born in a small tribe. You said it right.
The weak are enslaved as slaves, and that is applicable to everyone.
If I were to one day be subjected to someone more powerful than I too would become a slave. Hearing Zhang Yuxian's words, Yi Yun was surprised. He never expected that Zhang Yuxian would openly admit that he could submit to another.
This frankness may not be rare among important people, but it was seldom displayed from an important person to someone of lower stature since it was disdainful.
Zhang Yuxian's approachability surprised Yi Yun.
Lian Xingyu had to pull back his rage with Zhang Yuxian's words.
An elite Jin Longwei had already admitted so, he no longer dared say anything. However, it did not mean that Lian Xingyu could tolerate Yi Yun causing a mess at such an occasion. He said to Zhang Yuxian, "High Ambassador, this kid is named Yi Yun.
He is a lowly drug child in our Lian tribal clan. He has no martial arts background. He's here only to use you to pass his time. The lowly me will throw him out. Please do not fault my inability to discipline my tribe, causing such a joke." Lian Xingyu was so furious not because Yi Yun had questioned his authority, but because he had humiliated him in front of Zhang Yuxian. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yuxian did not mind. He casually pointed to a spot saying to Yi Yun, "You as a child sure are interesting.
Stand here. I will check your suitability for practicing martial arts later."
Zhang Yuxian may appreciate Yi Yun, but he was not overly concerned. From his point of view, few people in the wilderness were suited for martial arts.
Since Yi Yun dared to stand forward, he would help examine Yi Yun.
Since Zhang Yuxian had already made clear his position, Lian Xingyu could say nothing but shoot a resentful glance at Yi Yun.
"Thank you, my lord." Yi Yun thanked him in a decent manner and stood beside the warrior preparation camp troops. Incidentally, he was standing beside Zhao Taizhu. This was because Zhao Taizhu was close with Lian Xingyu, so he had become the unspoken leader of the warrior preparation camp. As such, he stood first in line among the troops. With Yi Yun coming over, he naturally ended up standing beside Zhao Taizhu. As a result, Yi Yun was now standing at the first position. As for this, Zhao Taizhu was a bit irritated.
What a joke! He was of great stature and great strength. How could he be compared to this little retard?
He was planning on entering the city with a high position as part of the family of a kingdom knight in the future. What was there to nitpick with the retard? "Little slave, you are here as a joke, right?" Zhao Taizhu mocked. He was waiting to see Yi Yun make a fool out of himself.
Yi Yun could not be bothered with him, and stood there silently. At this time, Zhang Yuxian began his selection. No one knew what Zhang Yuxian's selection criteria was. They had all gathered their strength awaiting it.
Chapter 33, Eating a Large Pagoda Tree. How old are you?
Zhang Yuxian looked at the first person, a short but stocky man.
The members of the warrior preparation were both stout and dark-skinned. This man had a considerable status in the Lian tribal clan.
Even among the warrior preparation camp, he was one of the strongest. He felt honored being the first to be examined by Zhang Yuxian and was dying of anticipation.
Lord, I'm 26 this year. I can raise a 400-pound stone roller. I'm not bullshitting.
Such a heavy rock can be lifted by me 4 to 5 times like a toy. If the Lord wants to follow me, I'll lift it to show you. This man introduced himself confidently. Zhang Yuxian did not take notice of his self-boasting words, and silently placed his hand on the man's shoulder.
He began to inject Yuan Qi in.
One who has opened heaven's eyes could see a person's muscles, meridians, bones with a glance, and from there determine if a person was suitable for martial arts. However, Zhang Yuxian had not reached such a realm. So his selection method was to inject a person with a little Yuan Qi, and see how the person's body would absorb it. Those who could absorb it well had a suitable constitution. Those who had poor absorption had an unsuitable constitution. After a short venture, Zhang Yuxian was speechless. Less than 10% of the amount of Yuan Qi he had injected was absorbed by the man. It was about 7 to 8%.
This talent was too unbearable to see. Do you think you can defeat your enemies just because you can lift rocks?
Zhang Yuxian stared into the man's eyes saying, "Your constitution is extremely common, it's not suitable for martial arts." Zhang Yuxian's words were like a bucket of cold water splashed on the man's face. The self-boasting man was confused.
Not suitable for martial arts? How could I not be suitable for martial arts?
That man felt extremely disgruntled, but coming into contact with Zhang Yuxian's cold stare, he faded backwards like a defeated C** fighter.
I was always stronger than my peers since young. I could lift a 400-pound stone roller when I grew up. If I wasn't suited for martial arts, would I be able to lift the heavy stone roller? These thoughts swirled in the man's mind.
He had been practicing martial arts for years, and to be told by Zhang Yuxian that he was unsuitable for martial arts negated all his previous efforts. Of course, he only kept that in his mind, for he did not have the courage to contradict Zhang Yuxian. Stay here for now. Zhang Yuxian did not plan on sending him packing immediately, but kept him there.
It was because Zhang Yuxian knew that he had to be mentally prepared when making a selection in the wilderness. It was hard for these people to become an expert under such poor environments.
A tribe without any experts would continue on from one generation to the next, and it was very unlikely a prodigy could transpire out of that.
But very quickly, Zhang Yuxian realized that he had underestimated the extent of the poor quality of men in the vast wilderness.
He began to understand that there was no such thing as worst, only worse. As he went down the line, the self-boasting man from before was actually considered not bad. As he reached the end, most of them could only absorb 6 to 7%, there were even some who could only absorb 4 to 5%. It was a terrible sight.
Zhang Yuxian could only lower his standards.
He finally decided that all those who could absorb more than 6% could stay behind.
I guess you barely qualify.
Zhang Yuxian looked helplessly at a stout man, and could only describe it with the word barely. As he probed down the line, his elimination rate was at about 50%. With about 40 warrior preparation camp members, there were only about 20 who qualified under such standards, clearly missing the 30-people target.
Lord Zhang sure is strict.
Those soldiers from the warrior preparation camp are so strong, but half of them were eliminated.
Thankfully we didn't go up, or it will be so humiliating.
A few men who had previously wanted to make an attempt after seeing Yiyun signing up felt lucky. Under such elimination practices, only a very gifted person could be selected. And they could tell that Zhang Yuxian was not really satisfied by the people who had passed. It was only because there was no one else to choose that he had to pick a general among the dwarves. Upon understanding this, the crowd began to admire Lian Qingyu even more.
Only Lian Qingyu won the praise of extremely not bad. Yun'er clasped Zhang Xiao's tiny hands. She looked at Yi Yun worriedly. She knew that Yi Yun had been secretly practicing martial arts the past few days, but she did not think that his ability would rise above the members of the warrior preparation camp. If Zhang Yuxian would not even pick those men from the warrior preparation camp, how would he choose Yi Yun? Zhang Xiao was still standing in the middle of the square. Her position was extremely awkward. The crowd's eyes were on her. Her brother was among the preliminary candidates. Zhang Xiao could neither retreat, nor could she stand there.
Yi Yun noticed Zhang Xiao's worried eyes and moved his mouth slightly. Sis Xiao, don't worry.
I'll be fine.
Zhao Taizhu burst out into laughter after hearing Yi Yun's words. Uf *** king bullshitter, I can pick any stray dog, and it would be stronger than you. Lord Zhang would rather choose a dog as a disciple rather than you. Facing the cynical mockery, Yi Yun could only stare coldly into Zhao Tieju's eyes, saying, You should just care for yourself, as for myself, you don't need to worry.
Yeah, hey.
This kid sure got C***CKY, to think he used those words against me. If you were to be chosen today, I will uproot that large pagoda tree by the village entrance and eat it, leaves and roots all. Zhao Taizhu burst into laughter as he said that. At the same time, another man standing beside Zhao Taizhu, another warrior preparation camp member, echoed mockingly, Then I'll eat that big stone roller by the village entrance.
Ha, you guys sure are humorous.
I'll join you guys by drinking all the water in the East River. The men from the warrior preparation camp began to turn rowdy. Yi Yun looked helplessly at these men and shrugged, whatever. At this time, Zhang Yuxian had already reached Zhao Taizhu. Zhao Taizhu wiped off his smile and stood up straight.
Zhang Yuxian pressed on Zhao Tieju's body and said 28?
Zhao Taizhu replied hastily, The Lord sure has great eyes, little me is indeed 28.
Zhang Yuxian frowned, for Zhao Taizhu was also not satisfactory to him.
But considering that the numbers were too few, he reluctantly said, I guess you meet the minimum requirements.
I will keep you to make up the numbers.
Zhang Yuxian began to reach the conclusion that having a kingdom selection in the Cloud Wilderness was a pointless endeavor.
Zhao Taizhu heaved a sigh of relief and shook his fists. That's great. I passed. He was very excited and began demonstrating in front of Yi Yun.
Although he had barely met the minimum standard, he had still passed. He was about to practice martial arts with the High Ambassador. When he had a meteoric rise, he could marry multiple wives and walk towards the peak of humanity, not something a weakling like Yi Yun could compare with. At this time, Zhang Yuxian was in front of Yi Yun.
Everyone's eyes were concentrated on Yi Yun's body.
Lian Qingyu sneered, I want to see how you are going to get out of this. That thought had bubbled into his mind, but he pricked it immediately. Yi Yun was a mentally handicapped kid, so Yi Yun would be oblivious even if he was humiliated. A mentally handicapped kid did not need to wrap things up.
Causing an uproar was common. He might even mistake the jeers as compliments.
Lian Qingyu was speechless when his train of thought reached this conclusion. It was akin to the quote that one should never argue with an idiot, they will only bring you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yi Yun, right, as Zhang Yuxian stood before Yi Yun.
Yes, me lord.
Have you never really practiced martial arts? Zhang Yuxian gave a wistful glance at Yi Yun.
He was only at the purple blood realm, and could not tell Yi Yun's level, but he had felt that Yi Yun's body was hiding a power.
To be talented yet self-effacing.
I've trained a bit, Yi Yun chose his words wisely. Training by stealing lessons was also considered training. Lord, this kid is lying. Zhao Taizhu began to snitch, I can attest to the fact that this kid has never practiced martial arts.
Yi Yun looked at Zhao Taizhu as if he was a retard. How would you know if I practiced martial arts? I've passed the tribal grounds multiple times.
I've also practiced some of what Instructor Yao had taught. Yi Yun openly admitted that he had practiced martial arts. This was to prepare for the day when he had to reveal his real strength.
It would make people think he was a prodigy, lowering the risk of the discovery of the purple crystal.
If not, he would be unable to explain where he got all his skills from.
You secretly learned martial arts?
Hearing Yi Yun's words, not only did Zhao Taizhu laugh, even the other members of the warrior preparation camp were trying hard to hold it in. They did not dare be audacious in front of Zhang Yuxian.
At this point, no one pursued his crime of secretly learning martial arts by stealing lessons. A member of the warrior preparation camp said, Instructor Yao's dragon rib tiger bone fist is so profound. We couldn't even grasp it by following his every move. You dull kid without any strength learned it secretly? What could you have learned?
Yi Yun could not be bothered to retort. He just wanted to leave the impression that he had practiced martial arts. It could be used to cushion the blow when he revealed his real strength. Zhang Yuxian pondered as he placed his hand on Yi Yun's shoulder, slowly injecting his Yuan Qi. Zhang Yuxian had not expected much. He had appreciated Yi Yun for his bravery, for it was rare for a kid to step forward under such circumstances. Of course, appreciation was one thing, but the practice of martial arts was not only about bravery. The Yuan Qi Zhang Yuxian released into Yi Yun's body completed a circulation, and as he waited expectantly in receiving the Yuan Qi back to see how much was absorbed, he realized that the Yuan Qi he injected had disappeared without a trace. Zhang Yuxian stared, how could this be? His brows began to jump as he refused to believe the situation he was in. He injected another surge of Yuan Qi into Yi Yun's body. This burst of Yuan Qi entered Yi Yun's meridians as if they had entered a black hole. The moment it passed Yi Yun's heart, it was absorbed by the purple crystal, with not a drop left.
Zhang Yuxian was shocked.
The Yuan Qi he had injected in Yi Yun had been absorbed totally. Seeing Zhang Yuxian's eyebrows jumping, Lian Xingyu did not know if Zhang Yuxian had been angered. He walked to Zhang Yuxian's side with a sullen expression.
Lian Xingyu's thoughts revolved around the examination of the Lian tribal clan Zhang Yuxian was conducting, but alas, an eccentric flower like Yi Yun had messed it up.
Although he treated the lives of the Lian tribal clan as dirt, he did not want the Lian tribal clan shamed in front of outsiders. It would result in others thinking lowly of him.
Lian Xingyu reluctantly smiled, Lord High Ambassador, the banquet has been prepared. Shall we eat first?
Lian Xingyu had wanted to divert Zhang Yuxian's attention, wishing he could cover up the incident with Yi Yun.
But suddenly, Zhang Yuxian grasped Yi Yun's shoulders with both hands.
He measured up Yi Yun carefully.
A poor tribe in the vast wilderness could produce such a talent?
Besides, this youth in front of him had the courage and commitment towards martial arts. He had proven himself by standing up in public. Besides that, the youth had a hidden amount of power within himself. It had sparked Zhang Yuxian's interest.
You are good, very good.
I never thought that I would find such an unpolished gem in a small tribe in the vast wilderness.
Zhang Yuxian was not stingy with his compliments.
His voice projected far and loud.
Ah! Beside Yi Yun was Zhao Taizhu, who was ready to mock Yi Yun when he failed to qualify.
He suddenly widened his eyes like a rooster being grabbed by the neck. What did Lord Zhang just say? I did not hear wrongly. Lian Xingyu, who was gearing to lead Zhang Yuxian for a meal, stood dumbfounded. He was not sure how to react momentarily. The outer ring of people who could not see the situation did not know what had happened. Their interest was piqued after hearing Zhang Yuxian compliment someone.
Who?
Who received such a high compliment? People in the outer ring started jumping to catch a glimpse.
You have a seamless body.
Even a low-grade purple blood seamless body is extremely good.
You will be appreciated even in a large tribe. Seamless body? The people, including Lian Xingyu, did not know the term seamless body.
But this did not prevent them from understanding Zhang Yuxian's attitude.
Very good, unpolished gem, appreciated even in a large tribe.
Even Zhao Taizhu with his feeble mental processes knew that Zhang Yuxian's compliments for Yi Yun had exceeded Lian Xingyu.
How could this be?
Zhao Taizhu felt like he had eaten a pound of shit, leaving a spectacular expression on his face. The other warrior preparation camp members were all dumbfounded.
Their mouths gaped open.
Brother, Zhang Shiro's eyes were watery. She was the only person who had wished that Yi Yun would amount to something. However, happiness had come too suddenly that even she had trouble believing it.
She had seen Yi Yun's growth since he was wearing diapers.
She had never felt that Yi Yun was talented.
Was what Zhang Yuxian said true? Zhang Xiaro felt something iffy. Even Lian Xingyu's evaluation was weaker than her brother's? This kid is a martial arts prodigy? How could this be? Lian Xingyu clenched his fists. He could not accept it. Zhang Yuxian had favored Yi Yun even more.
Lian Xingyu was always the number one prodigy in the Lian tribal clan. How could he tolerate someone exceeding him? Besides, the other person was a young slave.
This, Lord High Ambassador, you say this kid is a martial arts prodigy?
Could you have made a mistake? Everyone doubted Zhang Yuxian's words, but only Zhao Taizhu could not keep it in and dumbly asked.
Zhang Yuxian's face turned solemn, and said coldly, You doubt me?
Zhao Taizhu was shocked. He shook his head vigorously, No, I dare not, little me doesn't dare. Zhang Yuxian gave a cold glance towards Zhao Taizhu saying, I have limited time. In an hour, those who were selected, gather around here. I will impart martial arts to you for 3 days.
Saying that, Zhang Yuxian left. He had no interest in the welcoming banquet.
Zhao Taizhu, Lian Xingyu, and the rest of the warrior preparation camp were staring with utter bewilderment.
They looked at Yi Yun as if he was a freak. They could not accept the fact. Yi Yun had passed the preliminaries. He had even received extremely high compliments. How could that be? Yunar.
Zhang Shiro had seen the glares Lian Xingyu and company shot at Yi Yun. She rushed forward to pull Yi Yun by her side, worried about him.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
That lord said I was not suitable for martial arts. He even said this kid was some gem, or what body.
I can lift a 400-pound stone roller. That kid doesn't seem like he can even hold a chicken firmly. I can't be compared with him?
That short stout man began shouting. His words were met with astounding response.
I can't compare with that kid? I don't believe it. This kid sure has some *T good luck.
The warrior preparation camp were originally full of confidence, but it had been wiped clean during Zhang Yuxian's preliminary examination. Yi Yun was the only one who had received high compliments. They were definitely disgruntled. At this point, Zhao Taizhu walked towards Yi Yun, saying, Kiddo, don't be too proud.
I'm not sure what was wrong with Lord Zhang. You think we don't know?
You have been ill-ridden since young, like a little chick.
You can't even lift a 50 pounds rock weight.
You almost died picking herbs.
Such a person as a martial arts prodigy? My foot. Zhao Taizhu was not wrong.
The children of Yi Yun's age could lift 50 pounds rock weights, and Yi Yun could barely lift 30 pounds a few months ago. Yi Yun himself did not expect a seamless body assessment. Yi Yun, having the purple crystal and his keen senses from entering the Meridian's realm, had already guessed what Zhang Yuxian was doing.
He had injected energy to test a person's talent.
This energy was absorbed by the purple crystal, resulting in the misunderstanding by Zhang Yuxian.
To be honest about his talent, his body's innate talent was nothing out of the ordinary.
There was definitely no seamless body.
A real martial artist prodigy would not have such a poor constitution like Yi Yun.
If a body had a high affinity with energy, it would absorb energy from the surroundings in an invisible manner, causing the body to grow strong.
How could one expect a starving child that grew up in the vast wilderness be a prodigy?
Of course, although Yi Yun understood it, he decided to accept his title as a prodigy. It was a good way to explain himself when he revealed his strength.
With that, Yi Yun looked at Zhao Taizhu with a faint smile.
Seeing Yi Yun glancing over at him, Zhao Taizhu stared back with a look of disdain.
What? Disgruntled? If you are disgruntled, you can fight with me. I'll squash you with a finger. I'll let you win if I use an additional hair.
Zhao Taizhu was also fuming. He wanted to teach Yi Yun a lesson.
But Yi Yun replied calmly, Uncle Taizhu, have you finished eating the large pagoda tree? A critical hit with one sentence.
Zhao Taizhu's mocking words he had planned on saying got stuck in his throat. His remained silent as his eyes stared like a dead fish on the ground.
And that warrior from before, have you eaten that stone roller? Oh, and there was another one who wanted to drink up the East River's water. Yi Yun said in an amused manner.
His body was small and thin, while his face was still boyish. It did not seem capable of causing any harm, but every word he said embedded within itself an extreme amount of destructive power. The members of the warrior preparation camp quickly disavowed their statements. No one took responsibility for what they said. The words they had previously said in front of the entire tribe had smacked them right back in the face.
My fellow warriors, little me shall head back to take a rest. I need to make preparations for practicing martial arts with Lord Zhang. Also, young Master Lien, since little me needs to practice martial arts, can I take leave on the refining of the desolate bones? Yi Yun asked earnestly. Lien Xingyu's face was utterly black. How could he dare not to? Of course. Practicing martial arts is more important.
Saying this, Lien Xingyu felt his intestines twist.
Chapter 34, Zhang Xiaoro's Warning. Yi Yun and Zhang Xiaoro returned home almost under the escort of all the villagers.
To the Lien tribal clan, it was big news that Yi Yun had passed the examination. A poor kid had been chosen by a high ambassador and would be given martial art pointers.
He could even participate in the kingdom's selection in the future. This could not be described by any auspicious omen.
You say, I watched this Yun kiddo grow up. I never felt anything special about him.
He's really a martial arts prodigy? And to contest in the kingdom's selection. Is that true?
Since it was said by the High Ambassador himself, there has to be some truth in it. But I doubt he would have enough time to prepare for the kingdom's selection. Even if Yi Yun was a prodigy, he would have absolutely no hope.
To the villagers of the Lien tribal clan, they knew that martial arts wasn't something that could be accomplished overnight. The kingdom's selection was an elite selection process.
To catch Zhang Yuxian's fancy was already some *T good luck. It would be akin to daydreaming for him to pass the kingdom's selection. No matter how clever a child was, giving a child who had never read before a scholarly collection was pointless. It would never allow him to pass the exam to become a scholar in 2 months. It was the same logic with participating in the kingdom's selection. The Lien tribal clan had came to a consensus, which no one doubted.
With a lot of effort, Zhang Xiaoro finally brought Yi Yun home. Despite Zhang Xiaoro closing the courtyard's door, many people had climbed up the walls to look into Zhang Xiaoro's house.
As the mud walls in the villagers were short, a kid could easily climb up the walls.
As a result, a row of people were slumped over Zhang Xiaoro's house walls.
The mud walls began to sink, as if they were about to collapse.
Zhang Xiaoro did not bother about that. She had mixed thoughts.
She was proud of her brother, but it was also mixed with the fear and confusion of the unknown future.
Zhang Xiaoro knew that Yi Yun only had talent, but lacked strength.
The villagers might have mixed it up, thinking that Yi Yun had undergone a life-changing event.
Zhang Xiaoro knew that in the vast wilderness, strength was of utmost importance.
A person with talent had to let the strength grow to be of use, or it would be useless.
Yuner, Lord Zhang said you had a seamless body. Do you know what a seamless body is?
Jiang Xioro held onto Yi Yun's hands as she sat by the bedside.
Yi Yun shook his head. Sis Xiaro, could it be that you know what it is? Yes, I've heard a bit about this. A seamless body means that a body does not have any energy leaks.
Such a constitution is extremely suitable for practicing martial arts.
Seamless body also has levels. The lowest level is mortal blood seamless body.
One can be without leaks while in the mortal blood realm, but will not be able to do so upon reaching purple blood. A purple blood seamless body would not have any leaks in both the mortal blood and purple blood realm. But at higher levels, they will not be able to do so. I don't know what you are at the moment.
Yi Yun was surprised at Jiang Xiao's words. Sis Xiaro, how do you know so much?
Jiang Xioro touched Yi Yun's head saying, when I was young, I had my talent tested by my family, so I had learned something from there.
The steps to testing a seamless body were extremely troublesome.
That Lord Zhang did not have any array set up, and his cultivation was limited, so he could only test you crudely. A person with seamless body is highly appreciated in a clan. But if you were only a mortal blood seamless body, then the appreciation will be limited.
However, the higher levels of seamless body are extremely rare.
I remember on the day of the test, a cousin of mine named Zhang Mingzhi was a sage-level seamless body.
The entire family was overjoyed, and they celebrated for days.
There were many VIPs who came during those days. As for the details, I don't really remember anymore. Yi Yun was stunned after hearing Jiang Xioro's words.
Sage-level seamless body?
Although he didn't know what level that was, it sounded really powerful. And, to be able to produce such a constitution in the family, what sort of clan did Jiang Xioro belong to? Yi Yun knew that Jiang Xioro came from a rich background.
She was taught how to write from young.
She had read widely, so she knew about cultivation. It was not possible children from small families could do.
Having been born in such a clan, how did she inexplicably find herself seeking refuge in the vast wilderness, to be eventually adopted by his own family?
Yi Yun could not help but ask, Sis Xioro, what sort of family clan was yours? Jiang Xioro wrinkled her little brow as she thought for a while before shaking her head saying, I don't remember anymore.
I only remember it was a big family clan.
Then I remember that I began reading and writing at a young age. I remember the courtyard I stayed in when I was young.
As for the events after that, I don't remember anymore even if I tried.
Jiang Xioro's words piqued the curiosity of Yi Yun.
Did Jiang Xioro's family experience some huge transition? Could such a brilliant family been destroyed, causing the clan to disperse? Dynasties rose and fell, families grew and were destroyed.
In this world, nothing was eternal.
Yunner, this set of clothes was made by me. See if it fits.
As Jiang Xioro said that, she took out a set of newly sewn clothes from some old baggage. It was made of green fabric.
It was very rough as people from the cloud wilderness usually wore clothes made of linen.
They were tough and resistant.
Yi Yun was surprised. The family was so poor that locks were not needed.
It was not an exaggeration but a fact.
Poor families like Yi Yun's did not have locks. In the cloud wilderness, locks made of metal were expensive. A poor family's entire fortune was not worth more than the price of a lock. In such a situation, Jiang Xioro was able to obtain a piece of cloth to make him new clothes. Yi Yun received the clothes with mixed feelings.
Although the cloth was rough, it was elegant and neat. The ends of the cloth were studded with tiny pins. This was sewn one stitch at a time by Jiang Xioro.
Honestly, the texture of the clothes was not good. In fact, it was pretty bad.
Compared to the cotton and silk clothes Yi Yun had experienced on Earth, it was a heaven and earth difference. But such a piece of clothing made Yi Yun feel extremely special.
Quick, put it on.
I wanted to give it to you for the new year, but you will be practicing martial arts today in the schoolyard.
It's a joyous occasion, so you should wear something nice. Others won't be able to mock you that way.
Jiang Xioro's words formed a lump in his throat.
He took a deep breath before taking off his tattered clothes.
He then changed into the new set of clothes. The clothes make a man just as a saddle makes a horse.
Jiang Shiro's clothes were extremely fitting.
Although it was made of linen, it matched well with Yi Yun's growing body and the aura he obtained after breaking through into the Meridian Realm. It was eye-catching. Jiang Shiro pulled Yi Yun over and looked all over him, feeling extremely pleased. But she recalled something, saying, "Yuner, you may have been appreciated by Lord Zhang, but Lord Zhang will leave in 3 days. He isn't related to us, so it will be hard for him to take care of us, so in the future, we must rely on ourselves. Lord Zhang may say you have a lot of talent, but talent is not enough to protect yourself. You might face a disaster before you mature.
It's because an elephant has tusks, while a rhinoceros has a horn that they are hunted.
When you are practicing under Lord Zhang, don't be too excessive. Keeping things low-key and staying cautious is the right way to go.
Especially people like Lian Qingyu who are extremely narrow-minded. He will not spare you if you steal his limelight. When Lord Zhang is here, Lian Qingyu would not dare try anything, but what would happen after Lord Zhang leaves? Lord Zhang wouldn't know what sort of person Lian Qingyu is, nor would he know the ongoings in the Lian tribal clan and Lian Qingyu's hostility towards you. Lord Zhang likely has his hands tied with some matters, and he came here out of convenience for the kingdom's selection preliminaries. He will likely not put too much thought into it, and wouldn't meddle with the internal affairs of the Lian tribal clan. Hoping for him to protect you will be extremely hard. Do you understand? Jiang Shiro said a lot in one breath, astonishing Yi Yun. Jiang Shiro's thoughts were prudent. Her understanding of people and the world exceeded girls of her age. A normal girl would have fainted upon hearing her brother had been appreciated by a high ambassador. She wouldn't stay at home to give him advice, but run off to the neighbors to brag about her capable brother. Sis Shiro, I understand everything you said. Yi Yun held on to Jiang Shiro's hand. Don't worry, if I wasn't confident in dealing with Lian Qingyu, I would never have stepped forward today. Yi Yun had carefully weighed his choices before registering. Without question, Yi Yun had to pass the preliminaries hosted by Zhang Yuxian. Not only was it a required ticket for entry to the kingdom's selection, but to be able to be imparted skills from Zhang Yuxian made Yi Yun extremely interested. Previously, Yi Yun had stolen lessons from Yao Yuan, so the effectiveness was largely reduced. Yi Yun had to step forward when Zhang Yuxian was making his selection. However, Yi Yun could only reveal his talent, but not reveal his actual training in front of Zhang Yuxian. Zhang Yuxian did not know Yi Yun's trump card. Even Lian Qingyu did not know. Yi Yun was a weak kid a few days before, without herbs or people imparting skills to him. It was preposterous that he reached the Meridian Realm out of nowhere. If Lian Qingyu informed Zhang Yuxian of this, Zhang Yuxian would feel suspicious. A proud person like him could not even have such a fast cultivation speed even if he ate all sorts of precious herbs daily. At that time, Zhang Yuxian might even suspect that he had a secret. Although Zhang Yuxian seemed like an upright person, but it was best to err on the side of caution. An upright person could be tempted by the huge treasure in front of him to do horrible acts. Yi Yun definitely could not expose the purple crystal. Late in the morning, Yi Yun came to the school ground. Zhao Taizhu and the bunch of warrior preparation camp members had arrived early with eagerness. They had moved big stone rollers and millstones over. These boars relied on these items to train their strength. It was what they were best at, and something they were extremely proud of. So although Zhang Yuxian had not arrived, these men from the warrior preparation camp had begun lifting the stone rollers. There were many villagers in the vicinity. They could not stop themselves from watching such a lively scene. Oh, isn't this our martial arts whiz? How about it, have a go at it? Zhao Taizhu demonstrated as he saw Yi Yun squeeze out from the crowds. Pang! With a thud, Zhao Taizhu had thrown a 500-pound stone roller in front of Yi Yun. Do you dare to have a go at it? Said Zhao Taizhu with a contemptuous look at Yi Yun. In front of all these people, Zhao Taizhu wanted to prove that it was only through *T good luck that Yi Yun was considered a martial arts prodigy. Brother Zhao, you are being too hard on him. How could he lift a 500-pound stone roller? Come, little brother, why don't you try this small rock weight? Another man threw a 200 rock weight at Yi Yun. He complimented Zhao Taizhu in humiliating Yi Yun. To them, even 50 pounds would be tough for Yi Yun, not to mention 200 pounds. How could he be a martial art prodigy? Yi Yun looked at them as if they were retards. He couldn't be bothered with them. He had already proved his talent for martial arts. He did not care if they believed. He had achieved his goal of planting the seed in their minds. Next, he had to cultivate properly. When he showcased his extraordinary strength at the kingdom's selection, it would be understandable. Yi Yun did not plan on being in direct conflict with Lian Xingyu. Lian Xingyu's cultivation was one level higher than him, and had rich fighting experience. Besides, Lian Xingyu wasn't just one person, there were others like Yao Yuan and the Patriarch, and numerous people from the upper echelon that supported Lian Xingyu. If it really came down to it, Yi Yun felt his current strength was too weak. Besides, he had a weakness, Zhang Shuro. Lord Zhang is here. Suddenly a man shouted in a low voice. All the members of the warrior preparation camp scattered like chickens and began lifting the stone rollers. Hey! Ha! Hey! Ha! These people had been lifting stone rollers for years, resulting in a harmonious chant. The scene was really in full swing. Accompanied by Lian Xingyu, Zhang Yuxian walked to the center of the square. The men's faces were flushed with excitement. They tried to display their strength to Zhang Yuxian, hoping to gain some credit. Amongst all, Zhao Taizhu was working the hardest. The expression on his face said, "Do you see it?" This was his real strength. He could fool around with a 500-pound stone roller. How could he be incomparable to a small kid? Lord Zhang, take a good look, did you make a mistake just now? Seeing this scene, Zhang Yuxian frowned. He felt his minimal amount of patience grinding low. The upper echelon of the kingdom did not know any better and wanted to hold a kingdom selection in the wilderness. And he had to take on the task. He felt he was teaching a pile of trash. You bunch of trash, stand well for me. Zhang Yuxian suddenly roared. His sound waves exploded forward like a bomb, scaring the members of the warrior preparation camp. They all released their grip. Pang! 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 Many of them nearly broke their backs by dropping the stone roller on the ground. Zhao Taizhu and the rest were a little dumbfounded. They did not expect the originally majestic but amiable Zhang Yuxian to change totally. In fact, the Jin Longwei was an army. As an instructor in a unit, it was common to beat a person to death. Zhang Yuxian was being moderate because he could not be bothered to stoop down to the level of junk. Beating these trash who had brain problems was a sully to his reputation as a Jin Longwei. You bunch of idiots. I will only be teaching you 3 days of skills during this visit to the Lian tribal clan. I had originally wanted to teach you fist skills or movement skills, but from your actions and ignorance, I doubt I can finish teaching you a skill. Zhang Yuxian swept the crowd with his sharp gaze. It felt like a knife had scraped past their face, itching their facial skin. Zhang Yuxian turned his body and walked to a corner of the school field. There stood a tall and thick tree. This was the large pagoda tree Zhao Taizhu had promised to eat when he mocked Yi Yun. Zhang Yuxian stood in front of the large pagoda tree. He looked up and suddenly sent a chop towards the tree. Ka-cha! A crisp sound erupted. This large pagoda tree had been cut down with Zhang Yuxian's hand chop. Wow! The men from the warrior preparation camp gasped at seeing this scene. The surrounding villagers were shocked and couldn't stop grinning. They had never seen such a terrific display of skills. Lian Xingyu's eyebrows jumped. If it was a kick, he would have been able to do the same. But a casual hand chop to bring down a large pagoda tree as if he was cutting grass was a shocking display of power. Zhang Yuxian dragged the large pagoda tree that weighed thousands of pounds as if it was a wooden stick.
He threw the big tree before the members of the warrior preparation camp. As the people looked at the tree, they recalled Zhang Yuxian's words. Zhang Yuxian had said that he will teach them one skill.
Was it this hand chop? Thinking of this, many of them couldn't help anticipating it. This move was too cool. Even if they couldn't match Zhang Yuxian, just a tenth of the power would be extremely cool. Today the skill I'm teaching you is neither a technique nor a combat skill. It's a mystic technique. It's a cornerstone skill of the Jin Long Wei, priceless. If you can learn it well, the road of martial arts will be smoother, and it will greatly increase your body's strength. It will also increase your survivability. Zhang Yuxian's words aroused the curiosity of the people. Not only did it help in their martial arts, it also increased their strength and even survivability. It was a cornerstone skill of the Jin Long Wei. This mystic technique sure sounded great. What was it? You. Zhang Yuxian pointed at Zhao Taizhu. Step forward. Zhao Taizhu intelligently stepped forward in front of Zhang Yuxian. He was a part nervous and a part excited. This mystic technique will be demonstrated by you. Zhao Taizhu was delighted hearing those words. A good outcome had fell into his lap. Ha ha ha. Zhao Taizhu laughed in his heart thrice. Zhang Yuxian was going to personally impart the mystic technique to himself. Would he not learn it well? Although Lord Zhang did not say anything, he had appreciated me after all. It was expected. I have one of the greatest strength in the entire warrior preparation camp. With today's practice target being that large pagoda tree, I would at least be able to cut down a large piece of bark with one chop. As Zhao Taizhu was itching to try, Zhang Yuxian split the large pagoda tree apart with 2 chops. Following that, Zhang Yuxian pointed at the large pagoda tree and said to Zhao Taizhu, "You eat this large pagoda tree." With those words, an excited Zhao Taizhu nearly tumbled, planting his head into the ground. What? What the F***K? Eat this large pagoda tree. Eat the large pagoda tree. Eat the tree. Eat. The words rang in Zhao Taizhu's head. He couldn't believe Zhang Yuxian. I couldn't have heard it wrongly. Chapter 36, Really have to eat the tree? Oh. Do you not understand? Seeing Zhao Taizhu hesitate, Zhang Yuxian's expression turned cold. Zhao Taizhu was speechless. He felt that Zhang Yuxian was teasing him. Did Lord Zhang hear his lampooning of Yi Yun and was purposely teasing him? But no matter how discontent he was, he did not dare to retort Zhang Yuxian. At this time, the members of the warrior preparation camp looked at Zhao Taizhu with pity. They knew what words Zhao Taizhu had previously said to Yi Yun. They did not expect retribution to come so fast. Seeing Zhao Taizhu's misfortune, the 2 men who had pitched in about eating a large stone roller and drinking the East River's water began to twitch. They wished they could slap their own mouths. Why did they join Zhao Taizhu's craziness? It was possible they would receive their just deserves in a while. It was possible to take a bite or 2 from the large pagoda tree, but how could one eat the stone roller? Zhao Taizhu, what are you idling for? You were ordered to eat the tree, did you not hear? Lian Xingyu saw Zhao Taizhu's reluctance and reprimanded him. Lian Xingyu did not care what the reason was. He decided that since it was commanded by Zhang Yuxian, any order from the High Ambassador had to be complied. After all, it wasn't just because of his rotten luck. Zhao Taizhu made up his mind despite his bitter face. He said, I'll eat. He crouched down and broke off a piece of wood. Zhao Taizhu looked at this piece of wood with a tearless grief. This piece of wood could be used to build a house. I'm being treated as a termite. Seeing Lian Xingyu's unfriendly face, Zhao Taizhu could only resign to fate as he stuffed the piece of wood into his mouth with his eyes closed. This taste was an indescribable enjoyment. Zhao Taizhu felt as if his throat was being torn apart.
He had managed to swallow a piece with extreme difficulty. He looked at Zhang Yuxian helplessly.
It read, "Is that enough?" But Zhang Yuxian simply said, "Carry on." Zhao Taizhu almost fainted.
He was great at lifting stone rollers, chopping trees and piling, but eating wood was a torture.
"Lord Zhang, I don't understand this mystic technique."
Lian Xingyu had originally thought that Zhang Yuxian was teasing Zhao Taizhu, letting him understand the importance of following orders.
But now it didn't look right. It seemed making Zhao Taizhu eat the tree was part of the mystic technique. If so, then even he had to eat the wood in a while. So he asked to be sure. Towards Lian Xingyu, Zhang Yuxian's attitude was better. He said, "This mystic technique is known as the elephant swallowing technique. It's a technique used to train your stomach and digestive abilities. A person who accomplishes much in the elephant swallowing technique can eat as much as they want every meal. It is rumored some can even eat an entire elephant, hence its name."
The members of the warrior preparation camp had an expression on their faces. Simply stated, this elephant swallowing technique was just a technique for eating.
Isn't this a gluttony skill? Can this be considered a mystic technique?
Seeing the expression on the members of the warrior preparation camp, Zhang Yuxian knew what they were thinking. He said disdainfully, "You people have the exposure similar to an ant. How dare you evaluate the cornerstone skill of the Jin Longwei? Simply ridiculous. Training a warrior's stomach is very important. With good heart and lungs, you can endure longer and fight harder. But being good at fighting can't be better than cultivation. With your stomach strong, it will be a benefit to cultivation. For mortal blood warriors, you may be moving stone rollers, fighting, climbing up trees and houses. Where does all this energy come from? It's from your meals. Some warriors with a well-trained stomach have astonishing appetite. They can finish a cow in 3 days. The amount of nutrition they absorb will naturally be more. Their muscles will grow stronger, and their strength increases naturally." Zhang Yuxian's voice was loud.
Yi Yun was moved by his speech. Indeed, a warrior's energy output was terrific.
This energy had to come from somewhere. And that energy source for mortal blood warriors had to come from their meals.
Meals were energy. If one could eat more, there would be natural benefits. Consider the children of average talent that came from noble families. Most of the time, they would not be distributed desolate bones essence for their cultivation. The only method to increase their strength was by eating desolate beast meat. Most people would be full from about 4 kilograms of desolate beast meat. With such an appetite, it was pointless for them, they might as well take care of the family business. There were others who could eat 100 kilograms of desolate beast meat and still have room for more. All the desolate beast meat could be digested, obtaining the essence within. By working hard to cultivate, they would be able to reach a higher level. Hence, having a good stomach allowed one an advantage. Zhang Yuxian's foundation mystic technique was the elephant swallowing technique. It was a fundamental technique for practicing the arts. Zhang Yuxian carried on, the warriors from the large tribes practiced the elephant swallowing technique with desolate beast meat. As you lack the materials in the cloud wilderness, you can't even fill your stomachs. However, practicing the elephant swallowing technique is still useful. Having a strong stomach allows you to absorb the nutrients of anything you eat. Commoners will waste a lot of the essence when they digest the 5 grains they eat. Most of it is excreted as feces. Human waste is even eaten by dogs. Maggots thrive in the feces, and the dung beetle rolls the dung into balls as their brooding chambers. In it, there are large amounts of nutrients that were not completely absorbed. If you can't even absorb completely the 5 grains, don't even think about eating precious foods. Without a good stomach, you won't even be able to digest precious foods. After learning the elephant swallowing technique, you will be able to absorb anything you eat completely.
When you encounter a famine, you can eat and digest the bark on the trees or guanine clay, kaolin/China clay, giving you the nutrition to sustain life. From today, your meals will consist of tree roots, tree bark, and guanine clay. After you are done eating, follow my method to practice your elephant swallowing technique to kickstart your stomach to digest these hard-to-digest foods into nutrients. After hearing Zhang Yuxian's words, the members of the warrior preparation camp were speechless.
They had to eat that?
They could only have wood and guanine clay as meals for 3 days. They had originally thought that they would be able to feast on the meat Zhang Yuxian had obtained from hunting fierce beasts.
However, reality is cruel.
Besides fierce beast meat, they were not even allowed to eat rice porridge.
The faces of the members of the warrior preparation camp were bitter. No one wanted to eat the tree. They needed to at least ease into the process.
As they looked at each other, Yi Yun walked out of the bunch.
He crouched down in front of the big pagoda tree, broke off a branch and swallowed it down, leaves and all. Practicing the arts wasn't meant to be an enjoyment. It required suffering, frustration, and the risking of their lives. Not only martial arts.
Yi Yun knew that on Earth, children who practiced acrobatics, dance or judo underwent tough training. For example, a teacher would kneel on a child's back to exert pressure. That kind of pain wasn't something an adult could endure. In this strange world, behind the scenes of a peerless expert was indescribable effort. Eating some wood or guanine clay was nothing.
Chapter 37, 12 Moves.
Seeing that Yi Yun was the first to follow his instructions, Zhang Yuxian nodded with satisfaction. The others did not think likewise.
Zhao Taizhu looked at Yi Yun eating the tree and sneered, "It isn't so simple eating wood.
You may be trying to be a hero, but I'll see how you burst to your death later."
When the people faced famine, people ate grass roots and tree bark. But no one tried eating wood, especially uncooked hardwood. Besides termites or borers, few animals in the world ate wood. The wood fibers in the wood was not something the stomach could digest.
"Go!
Dig up some guanine clay," Zhang Yuxian ordered.
Guanine clay was actually magnesium silicate.
No one knew why it was called guanine clay.
Maybe during the famine periods, the people looked to the guanine goddess for help.
This clay could fill the stomachs, so it obtained such a name. But in reality, guanine clay was a poison.
It was not harmful in small amounts.
But slightly larger portions would result in indigestion.
It would be impossible to excrete it out, and a person would eventually die of abdominal distension.
Coincidentally, the Lian tribal clan had such a material. Some people may wonder why would people eat the guanine clay if they knew it could kill. This was because of the ignorance of the local people. They believed that if they had a sincere heart, they would receive salvation from guanine. The second reason was that guanine clay tasted much better than tree bark and grass roots. Its appearance and taste resembled flour.
Some people who could not resist the temptation under extreme hunger would die from eating too much. The guanine clay was dug up and piled into a bunch. This guanine clay was moved here by the citizens. The citizens of the Lian tribal clan had become onlookers. Seeing the people from the warrior preparation camp about to eat the guanine clay, the onlookers were worried. It was okay eating some guanine clay, but the results would be devastating if they finished that large amount.
"Begin,"
Zhang Yuxian said lightly. Yi Yun did not hesitate and began eating the guanine clay in large amounts.
It did not have any special taste, but a bit creamy.
The guanine clay was much easier to swallow than the wood. Seeing Yi Yun's actions, the people from the warrior preparation camp could not take that lying down.
They bit the bullet and began eating.
They believed Zhang Yuxian wasn't out to harm them. Although it was awful eating that, but for practicing the skill, they had to endure it. But just as the thought flashed in their heads, Zhang Yuxian destroyed that thought when he said, "The elephant swallowing technique isn't that easy to learn." Some people who ate the guanine clay for the practice of elephant swallowing technique did not manage to learn it before dying of abdominal distension.
"What?
Hearing Zhang Yuxian's words, the courage they had summoned deflated. If you can't master the elephant swallowing technique, eating all this wood and guanyin clay would result in death.
Learning this technique would result in deaths.
They thought they would be subjected to suffering, but it would not be life-threatening. But the truth proved that they had thought wrong.
Seeing Zhao Taizhu and company's expressions, Zhang Yuxian gave a disdainful glance. Do you think the practicing of martial arts is to treat others to dinner and having a good time? And from that, you will learn a peerless skill?
When a warrior practices the arts, he has to understand that he will constantly confront death.
There are often deaths even among the Jin Long Wei members' normal training. Without pushing your body to its limits, how do you expect to break through?
The path of martial arts, entering mysterious lands, vendettas, vying for treasure, destroying the devil within, escaping death, surviving tragedies.
Which one of those doesn't have deaths? You are only at the beginning stages. If you don't dare to eat guanyin clay, then don't practice martial arts. Just die in this vast wilderness.
Zhang Yuxian had no more demands from the likes of these people. He also did not say how much guanyin clay or wood a beginner of the elephant swallowing technique should consume. It was up to a person's courage to determine how much he should eat.
The warrior preparation camp members looked at each other.
They unknowingly began to slow down their eating speeds.
As for Yi Yun, he paused for a while.
After a short silence, he began eating at a constant speed, not affected by those words.
Zhang Yuxian noticed Yi Yun and nodded. This courage was admirable.
As for Zhao Taizhu and company, they naturally noticed Yi Yun non-stop eating of the wood and guanyin clay.
Zhao Taizhu maliciously whispered, "That little bastard, he may be showing off now, but he will die from bursting later. Don't mind the idiot, brother Zhao. We are just beginners. Let's not eat too much.
Half a pound, no, 4 to 5 ounces should do." The men from the warrior preparation camp began to carefully weigh the amount they ate.
They ate it sparingly like a gluttonous child unwilling to finish a cake. Brother Zhao, don't bite off more than you can chew. Let's do it step by step. We will do it steadily. We will let Lord Zhang see our martial arts talent. How could we not match up to a little kid? The men from the warrior preparation camp suppressed their anger.
Zhang Yuxian had looked down on them, and his words implied that he had chosen them just to fill the numbers.
They had conceded to that, but they could not agree to Zhang Yuxian's high appraisal of a sickly child like Yi Yun. They thought they could lift stone rollers while practicing martial arts with Zhang Yuxian. It was their forte where they could act cool and easily push over Yi Yun. It would have been fun. But they never expected that they were required to eat a tree for their cultivation. It was like a bolt out of the blue. It's just eating wood and guanyin clay. What's there to fear? Brothers, eat. We have to exceed Yi Yun. This little chick is just here to play after all. Zhao Taizhu grew madder and madder just thinking. If the other men did not dare eat, he would purposely eat more. He did not believe he would be unable to learn the elephant swallowing technique. At this point, Yi Yun had already eaten about 1 kilogram of guanyin clay at a leisurely speed. The guanyin clay had begun to expand in his stomach. He felt as if a lead block had been stuffed into his stomach and was falling. Yi Yun's stomach began to hurt. This kind of pain is not obvious in the beginning, but it becomes worse as time goes by, to the point of causing people to die from pain. Suddenly, Yi Yun heard a voice say, "Follow me, do these 12 moves." Yi Yun raised his head and saw Zhang Yuxian standing in front of everyone. Zhang Yuxian's eyes were on him, with an encouraging smile. With that, Zhang Yuxian began to move. It was hard to describe Zhang Yuxian's movements. His movements looked blurry. It seemed like he was standing in another spacetime dimension, having cut off contact from the outside world. He demonstrated each of the moves. Each move was extremely strange. But when the actions connected, it gave off a consistent natural feel. Zhang Yuxian's speed varied. It contained a hard-to-describe charm.
These actions appeared in the eye-reads of the people, but it was as if seeing a shadow that didn't exist.
It looked like an illusion. Dreamy.
Yi Yun suddenly thought of something. He felt like it was a dream seeing Zhang Yuxian's movements. In a dream, the things seen, the words said were all very real and clear. It was possible to have utmost creativity in the dreams, creating beautiful poems. One could feel that his literary talent was excellent in the dream, but no matter what, he would never be able to remember what was written or said.
Upon waking up, everything would be forgotten. Seeing Zhang Yuxian's movements, Yi Yun had such a strange idea. Is the elephant swallowing technique just a fundamental skill? Why do I find it much better than the dragon rib tiger bone fist? Yi Yun could not believe it.
At this point, Zhang Yuxian had already finished. Although he could not remember most of the moves, Yi Yun knew that Zhang Yuxian had done the entire set of movements 3 times.
Alright, these are the 12 moves of the elephant swallowing technique. Do it accordingly.
If you can do it, you will have some small success with the elephant swallowing technique, and it wouldn't be hard to digest that bit of guanine clay.
What?
Hearing Zhang Yuxian's words, Zhao Taizhu and company stared wide-eyed.
What did Zhang Yuxian just do? They only saw a blur.
Zhang Yuxian's body shook, leaving some after-images, and then he was back there standing. Some of them were thinking if they were giddy, since they saw double. They did not understand the situation. It was impossible for them to follow Zhang Yuxian's movements.
What's the problem? Upon seeing the sodden expressions of the warrior preparation camp members, Zhang Yuxian asked.
A question. Zhao Taizhu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said his question with difficulty.
If we can't learn your movements, then what will happen to the guanine clay and wood that we just ate? Zhao Taizhu felt hopeless. It was too complicated. He couldn't even understand the moves. It was impossible for him to learn it in 3 days. Oh? Zhang Yuxian frowned.
He could not be bothered with Zhao Taizhu's retarded question and said, when you go to the bathroom, use a finger or a pick to dig, and you might survive.
Remember not to drink any water.
Hearing Zhang Yuxian finish his words, Zhao Taizhu and company suddenly felt like they had eaten a kilogram of shit, the kind that had been fermenting in the intestines for days. That expression was indescribable.
Chapter 38, Charm. F***K, is he teasing me? Zhao Taizhu was crushed. This isn't some elephant swallowing technique, it's a prank.
Many of the warrior preparation camp members had already began digging their throats with their fingers, hoping to vomit out the guanine clay and wood they had just eaten.
However, it was useless.
The guanine clay was extremely sticky.
The moment it reached the stomach, it sank and coagulated. Vomiting this final block would prove difficult.
Even though the men from the warrior preparation camp had vomited out their gastric juices, only a few with splinters came out. The guanine clay was still bound tightly in their stomachs.
Momentarily, the men all froze up. Lord Zhang, please stop joking. I couldn't even see your movements, said the men who were close to tears. How could anyone learn such a movement?
Hearing the complaints of the warrior preparation camp members, Zhang Yuxian was indifferent. He did the 12 moves of the elephant swallowing technique again. However, this time, he did it at a slower speed, allowing the people from the warrior preparation camp to see better. But Yi Yun realized that when Zhang Yuxian lowered his speed, there was a charm lacking in his set of moves. And it was this charm that was the crux of this set of moves.
Let me try.
At this time, Lian Xingyu stood forward.
Lian Xingyu had already eaten quite a bit of guanine clay and wood.
Lian Xingyu had some perceptive ability after all. He barely demonstrated the movements Zhang Yuxian had done. But in fact, his movements were far from correct. Of course, only Yi Yun could tell. As for Zhao Taizhu and company, they were full of admiration.
Young Master Lian is a man of God. Wow, how could you do those moves?
Zhao Taizhu and company began to suck up.
They were truly full of admiration for Lian Xingyu. It was so astounding of Lian Xingyu. But Zhang Yuxian looked at Lian Xingyu and said lightly, "That barely counts."
Given this evaluation made Lian Xingyu feel a sense of defeat. The moves were too hard, and he felt it was quite impressive that he was able to mimic it. But Zhang Yuxian only rated it as barely counts. His standards were too high. Lian Xingyu always had confidence in his talent. He felt that it was not because he failed to do well, but it was Zhang Yuxian's standard that was overly strict. Zhang Yuxian was also not generous with his praises. At this moment, Lian Xingyu noticed that Zhang Yuxian's gaze was focused on Yi Yun. Yi Yun had closed his eyes as if in a daze. Lian Xingyu sneered, "Having eaten so much wood and guanyin clay, the kid's stomach must be hurting right now." This elephant swallowing technique was so difficult, the set of movements was full of mystery. How could a 12-year-old child like him learn it? It was best that he died a painful death from a ruptured stomach. Due to Zhang Yuxian's high praise for Yi Yun, Lian Xingyu treated Yi Yun with great animosity. Yi Yun was fully immersed in his own world. Yi Yun could not be bothered watching Lian Xingyu's movements after a while. It was because Lian Xingyu could only barely match a few of the moves. And it was those moves that Yi Yun realized lacked a certain charm. From this point, Yi Yun realized something. He closed his eyes and began pondering. In Yi Yun's mind, Zhang Yuxian's movements were repeated again and again like a movie. After breaking through to the Meridian realm, Yi Yun's 5 senses were extremely keen. Although Zhang Yuxian's movements were quick, Yi Yun still managed to gain some insight. Also, having lived 2 lives, he had very high perceptivity. His eyes had been nourished by both the purple crystal and his meridians, making his mind's movements of Zhang Yuxian even clearer. The outer form first came together, and slowly each move began to emit that charm. Yi Yun realized that the elephant swallowing technique was extremely mysterious. First, one had to eat hard to digest and impossible to excrete food. Next, they had to use this set of mysterious moves to train their stomach and intestines. These moves, if one paid attention to the poses, would have their charm reduced. If one wanted to reflect the charm, then the poses would no longer be accurate. It was a mysterious set of mystic techniques. Yi Yun began to have such a thought. He felt that the elephant swallowing technique was more mystical than the dragon rib tiger bone fist. But why would a cornerstone skill of the Jin Long Wei be widely spread among the grassroots? It wasn't time to think about this. Yi Yun began to reach out his hands according to his memories. Suddenly, Yi Yun began to move. With his eyes slightly closed, and without any sense of direction, he began to demonstrate the movements of Zhang Yuxian using the mysterious feelings in his memories. One by one, Yi Yun's train of thought became clearer, and his speed increased. People who were looking at Yi Yun only saw a blur shadow of Yi Yun. Zhang Yuxian's eyes suddenly lit up. Yi Yun managed to simulate a trace of the charm of the elephant swallowing technique in his first practice. This had nothing to do with one's practice or physique. Only a person's perceptivity mattered. The difficulty of the elephant swallowing technique was its comprehension. It took Zhang Yuxian a long while to understand the charms behind the elephant swallowing technique. He too had suffered eating the guanyin clay during that period. This kid, Yi Yun, had an exceptionally perceptive mind. As for the men from the warrior preparation camp, they were all shocked at Yi Yun's movements. They did not understand the mystery behind the elephant swallowing technique, but no matter how dumb they were, they knew that Yi Yun wasn't doing it haphazardly. Because they too perceived an incomprehensible illusion from Yi Yun's movements. This kid, the men were stunned. They did not need to judge if Yi Yun's moves were accurate. From Zhang Yuxian's eyes, they knew they had to accept a more frustrating reality. Yi Yun could perform the elephant swallowing technique. How could this be? This little slave born from a low caste managed to learn Lord Zhang's movements after he demonstrated twice? Zhao Taizhu and company did not know how many times Zhang Yuxian had demonstrated the moves. They only saw his movements blur twice, hence they had concluded he had done it twice.
He actually learned such a difficult move?
The members of the warrior preparation camp could not accept it. They had always been condescending, and deep down, they felt they were the ruling class of the Lian tribal clan. But today, an inferior plebeian had climbed over their heads, suppressing them greatly. The lifting of stone rollers, which they were proud of, was worthless in the eyes of Zhang Yuxian, but they could not learn a thing Zhang Yuxian taught them.
Even the bright star of the clan, Lian Xingyu, was suppressed by Yi Yun. Lian Xingyu clenched his fists. A deep sense of anger and frustration burned in his eyes. This sense of frustration slowly turned into cold killing intent. Chapter 39, A Person's Most Painful Experience in Life. Yi Yun repeatedly performed the 12 movements of the elephant swallowing technique.
For an unknown reason, it was extremely energy depleting. In Yi Yun's semi-conscious state, he repeated the moves 5 times before he felt exhausted. Yi Yun opened his eyes and felt his abdomen burning. It was as if a fire had lit up. His body's energy surged to his stomach. Large amounts of blood and energy was being supplied. A normal person would have their blood flow to their stomachs after a meal. This was to aid the digestive process. Yi Yun was in a similar situation, just magnified 100 times. Yi Yun felt that if he wished, his entire body's blood could be condensed within his stomach.
Even metal nails and glass could be digested.
The bloated feeling from eating the guanine clay had totally disappeared.
Under the strong peristalsis within his stomach, the coagulated guanine clay had already been separated.
Yi Yun lifted his head to realize that everyone was looking at him. Zhang Yuxian had a smile on his face. As for the people from the warrior preparation camp, they could only be described as astonished, jealous, and hostile. At this time, Lian Xingyu walked over to Yi Yun with a smile.
Yi Yun, I must give in. Yi Yun looked surprised as Lian Xingyu said that.
Lian Xingyu also patted Yi Yun's shoulder, saying nicely, Yi Yun, to be honest, I was suspecting if you had passed the preliminaries due to luck.
But you have just proven yourself. I apologize to you.
I can't believe that you have such great talent. Lian Xingyu was not stingy with his praise. In the past, using you to pick herbs was a waste of talent. From now on, you can enter the warrior preparation camp. The Lian tribal clan will focus on grooming you.
It's too bad that the kingdom's selection is in a few dozen days. You have to blame me for not noticing your talent, wasting your time.
With only this amount of time left to practice martial arts, it's unlikely you can pass the kingdom's selection.
But it's all right.
If this stupid brother of yours becomes a kingdom warrior, I will definitely help you. I will ensure that you will be able to walk out of this vast wilderness. At that time, you will be able to support our Lian tribal clan and be glorious.
We can even mass migrate into the cities.
Lian Xingyu said it earnestly. His eyes did not exhibit the slightest amount of deceit.
If Yi Yun did not know Lian Xingyu well, he would have been fooled.
It is impossible to judge a man's heart from his face. If a person good at hiding his true intentions wanted, it was impossible to tell from his facial expression what he was truly thinking.
Lian Xingyu was exactly doing so. Yi Yun understood that he was doing it as an act in front of Zhang Yuxian. The moment Zhang Yuxian left, Lian Xingyu would reveal his true self. How could Lian Xingyu tolerate his growth?
Yi Yun sillily smiled, saying to Lian Xingyu, "Thank you, young Master Lian, I will not disappoint the young master."
Seeing Yi Yun fooled, Lian Xingyu broke into a smile.
He did not expect that under the skin of this 12-year-old child was an adult with richer experience than Lian Xingyu. Lian Xingyu carried on with some words of encouragement before turning towards Zhang Yuxian, saying, "Lord Zhang, I'm a dumb student.
My perceptivity is not as good as little brother Yi Yun. I still haven't mastered the elephant swallowing technique. Could Lord Zhang please demonstrate it again for us students?"
Since he had decided to settle scores later, Lian Xingyu showed humility on the surface. But for Zhao Taizhu and company, having heard those words, they began choking.
Young Master Lien. Zhao Taizhu was worried.
How could Lien Xingyu think so highly of Yi Yun? How could he say those words?
Shut up. All of you are good for nothings.
All the tribe's rations and meat were provided to you, but you can't even learn this elephant swallowing technique today.
It's so humiliating. If you don't practice it well, do you really want to burst dying from eating guanyin clay?
The moment Lien Xingyu said burst dying, Zhao Taizhu and company suddenly changed their expressions.
Right, this isn't a joke. If they don't learn it well, they would have to pay the consequences. Seeing Lien Xingyu appropriate handling of matters, and his good choice of words, Zhang Yuxian nodded. Lien Xingyu had both talent and good leadership potential. He was a talented individual.
Zhang Yuxian said, for this elephant swallowing technique, eating wood and guanyin clay is just the beginning stage. If you meet the criteria, you can even try eating materials with devastating energies.
Extremely valuable food will make your practice even better.
These words were only for Lien Xingyu and Yi Yun.
From Zhang Yuxian point of view, only Lien Xingyu and Yi Yun had the ability to leave
the vast wilderness and become a true warrior. He turned towards Zhao Taizhu and company, saying, as for you, although you won't have the opportunity to eat all those valuable foods, but if you were to master the elephant swallowing technique, you will be able to eat grassroots and tree bark safely during a famine. It will be a great boon to your survival.
Even learning a tiny bit will be extremely valuable for you. I will do it again. The speed will be much slower. Look carefully.
To be able to identify the charm of the elephant swallowing technique will all depend on yourself.
With that, Zhang Yuxian began moving again.
He really slowed down, but he was still unable to get through to Zhao Taizhu and company.
The result for that night was wailings from the toilets of the Lien tribal clan.
Some people say that the most painful thing in life is the failure to find a bathroom when experiencing diarrhea.
They would eventually have to sh*t in their pants. But for Zhao Taizhu and company, what would this be called?
Only those who experienced what Zhao Taizhu was feeling will know that even shitting in their pants was extreme bliss. That night, the only doctor in the Lien tribal clan boiled a huge pot of laxatives. Every member of the warrior preparation camp drank it, but they still could not succeed in excreting it out. As a last resort, they had to follow Zhang Yuxian's words. They used their fingers to dig. When they realized their fingers were not long enough, they used bamboo sticks.
As for bamboo sticks being inserted into their rectum, that feeling was heavenly.
In fact, using a bamboo stick to dig was not easy.
It was an extremely difficult task for an individual, because they could not see. As a last resort, they had to help one another. They had to reveal their ass, letting a brother help. That scene was too perfect that Yi Yun didn't want to think about it. To be able to bust ass for a comrade was nothing. But to help a comrade dig out shit, that would be true love. Just listening to the shrill cries, one could imagine the carnage happening. The bamboo sticks might have dug through something. On the second day, Zhao Taizhu and company's faces walked soft-footedly with an ashen expression. They had not been able to sleep the whole night, for they were constantly running to the toilet. Even after they drank the laxative, all that came out was yellow liquid. As for the bamboo sticks, even known tortures were nothing in comparison. However, thankfully they did not eat too much guanyin clay. As a result of the laxatives and the digging, no one died.
For the second day of training, Zhao Taizhu and company no longer dared to eat the guanyin clay.
As such, Zhang Yuxian only taught Yi Yun and Lien Xingyu. Eventually, Zhang Yuxian did not even stay the full 3 days at the Lien tribal clan. On the second night, a jade scroll that accompanied Zhang Yuxian trembled, producing a sound.
This jade scroll was a messaging device that Jin Longwei used. Seeing the jade scroll tremble, Zhang Yuxian's expression changed.
He left a note, mounted his huge beast and disappeared off into the night. Chapter 40, each having a scheme. Early the next morning, the members of the warrior preparation camp arrived at the square.
They already knew that Zhang Yuxian had left.
Many people had heard Zhang Yuxian's beast galloping away last night. Of course, that included Yi Yun. Yi Yun!
At the square, Lian Xingyu called Yi Yun from afar. His expression was still warm.
Young Master Lian, what's the matter?
Yi Yun smiled. He knew that Lian Xingyu's current demeanor was an act for the villagers.
At the square, there were many onlookers.
Although Lian Xingyu had long since wanted to get rid of Yi Yun, he did not want to do it in front of the villagers. Having appreciated Yi Yun, it was possible Zhang Yuxian would return to the Lian tribal clan for Yi Yun after he completed his mission.
Even if Zhang Yuxian didn't return, he might ask about Yi Yun at the kingdom's selection.
If Lian Xingyu had attacked Yi Yun in public, it would make him feel better.
However, with so many people watching, word would spread. At any rate, he couldn't silence the entire tribe. If the matter was investigated by Zhang Yuxian, Lian Xingyu would be implicated.
Hence, he planned on using a slow and steady manner to get rid of Yi Yun. Noticing that Lian Xingyu did not turn the tables, Yi Yun happily joined in with Lian Xingyu's Tai Chi practice.
Besides, if they had really broken into conflict, Yi Yun's strength was still insufficient. Also, Yi Yun was still not done absorbing the Desolate Bones essence. Yi Yun, Lord Zhang left behind a note and a box of pills. In the note, he instructed that the pills were for the both of us. The pill for me isn't a mild drug. A person with low cultivation cannot eat it.
As for yours, it's very suitable for building a beginner's foundation.
Lian Xingyu reasoned it well.
If Yi Yun didn't know who he was, he would have fully believed in it.
Oh, a pill. Yi Yun's eyes lit up. He was extremely excited and anticipant. Lord Zhang left a pill for me? Yes. Seeing Yi Yun's silly look, Lian Xingyu sneered in his mind. He's indeed a retard. He actually believed that there was a pie in the sky.
Lord Zhang sure was generous. The kindness he gave the two of us must be remembered even if we rise up.
Lian Xingyu patted and advised Yi Yun.
In his eyes flashed killing intent. With Zhang Yuxian gone, Lian Xingyu could no longer conceal his killing intent towards Yi Yun.
Young Master Lian words are wise. Little me will not forget, Yi Yun answered with a sincere desire of learning. Yi Yun, your talent is far greater than mine.
When the Desolate Bones essence is extracted, I intend to give you some of it. This Desolate Bones essence not only concerns our future, but it concerns the future of thousands of lives in the Lian tribal clan.
I can't trust anyone else but little brother Yi. I will be more assured if you lead the brewing. Let's do it this way.
In the day, you will carry on refining the Desolate Bones. When it is refined, we shall consume it together as brothers. I will then help you, allowing you to reach the second realm of mortal blood, vigor. I will then give you the pill from Lord Zhang, allowing your cultivation to go one step further. Lian Xingyu smirked as he said those words.
Yi Yun, on the other hand, knew it was a mocking expression.
Without Zhang Yuxian, to Lian Xingyu, Yi Yun was just a child who could be crushed easily in his palms. Even if Lian Xingyu had really prepared a pill for him, it would most likely be a slow-acting poison. It would paralyze him and cause him to slowly die in pain. But from Lian Xingyu's point of view, no poison was better than the frost python's frost toxin.
It was without cure.
Using the frost python's frost toxin to kill Yi Yun was most fitting.
I will complete whatever matter young Master Lian assigns me. Yi Yun patted his chest with a guarantee. He pledged like a hot-blooded youth. When Zhang Yuxian arrived in the Lian tribal clan, the refining of the Desolate Bones was not halted.
Its location was just moved to the Lian clan Herb Mountain. After all, having a huge cauldron burning day and night when Zhang Yuxian entered the Lian tribal clan was not appropriate. Lian Xingyu wanted to use the frost toxin to continue harming Yi Yun. It would slowly cause him to die a miserable death. It would also allay suspicions away from him, since dead men tell no tales. As for Yi Yun, he planned to absorb all the energy of the desolate bones before he fell out with Lian Xingyu. He wanted to break through to the Qi Gatherer realm, increasing the cards in his hand. As such, both of them connected well as they each had their own schemes.
With that, Yi Yun happily went to refine the desolate bones. Of course, to Lian Xingyu, Yi Yun's elated behavior resembled an immature kid.
This retard. I'm sending him to his death and he's so happy.
How could my talent lose to this retard? It's so humiliating. Lian Xingyu sneered.
He balled his fist so tightly that his knuckles emitted soft explosive sounds. Yi Yun was pining after the desolate bones, as he had not absorbed its energy for 3 days.
Without the desolate bones supplementing him with energy, Yi Yun's cultivation was slower.
He would also feel hungry as a result.
Damn it, kid, where did you die to?
The dark-faced men in charge of refining the bones snapped at Yi Yun. These men had been staying up on the Lian clan Herb Mountain, so they were not aware of the events that happened with Zhang Yuxian. Their impression of Yi Yun was still that of an ill-ridden child. So they were not amiable towards him.
Yi Yun did not pay attention to them. He went to his familiar spot and began chopping wood.
Today, he was prepared to absorb all the energy from the desolate bones.
Because Yi Yun knew that there was not much time left. Lian Xingyu's patience might run out in a few days. He had to break through into the 5th mortal blood level, the Qi Gatherer realm.
Facing the burning cauldron, Yi Yun took in a deep breath. In his vision, he saw endless points of lights. These points of lights were like a delectable cuisine. Yi Yun was already drooling.
Come on, I'll eat it clean.
With that in mind, Yi Yun conjured up a purple vortex with his heart in the eye of the storm.
In that split second, Yi Yun felt his body heat up.
A heat flow began circulating through the Rhine du Ermai Yi Yun had just recently opened up.
After that, in Yi Yun's vision, several purple red light dots appeared from the cauldron's mouth.
An uncountable number of light dots began to emerge from the Li firewater, and flew towards Yi Yun like a flock of birds. This, Yi Yun was momentarily shocked. The number of light dots were more than he anticipated.
It had even formed a line. Shoo! Shoo! Shoo!
The light drops rained on Yi Yun's body, entering his meridians without resistance.
Yi Yun suddenly felt his body tremble.
He felt his meridians were about to burst.
Pain.
An extremely intense pain caused Yi Yun to fall to the ground. And the energies were still entering his body without pause. If the men refining the desolate bones could see, they would see Yi Yun's body covered by a halo.